Chapter 121 Hyuga Brothers. Sleepless all night, the four of Dong Shenyao did not sleep that night, but told each other about the aftermath of their separation. Of course, it is mainly Ta Shenyao who is talking. After all, Kudo-shun and the others have a very simple experience. After learning that Dong Shenyao found out that Fuyuki was a spy, and then overshadowed Sunagakure village, the three of Kudo-shun were both surprised and happy. Surprised that Dong Shenyao had been alone with a spy for so long, and he was delighted that hundreds of Sunagakure were killed in one fell swoop. It was not until the sun rose that the four of them ended their conversation. After a simple breakfast, the four of Dong Shenyao found Sheni to bid farewell. Master Xian, we are leaving. You are here just in time. Now there are a group of wounded people in the city who need to be sent back to Konoha village for treatment. Please help to escort them back, and I also trouble you to give this scroll to Lord Hokage. Saying that, Xian Yi took out a reel. Yes. Dong Shenyao did not refuse either. After directly taking the scroll, he asked about the wounded. The wounded of Dong Shenyao are already gathering, and they will be reunited in the city in an hour. You will all set off together at that time. No problem, then I'll go now. After speaking, Dong Shenyao took Kudo-shun and several others out of the room. Since they had to wait for the wounded to leave together, Dong Shenyao and the others were not in a hurry. By the way, I saw Teacher Chi before, and I don't know where he is now. Let's go look for him. Dong Shenyao suddenly thought that he was chased by Jonin before, or whether it was Uehara Chi who rescued him. Of course Kudo-shun would not refuse Dong Shenyao's proposal, and Nishimura were fine now, so the four hit it off and searched for Uehara Kirai together. In the end, the four found Kai Uehara in a courtyard in Kenichi's mansion, and this is also the place where Kenichi arranged for all the elite Jonin to rest. Master Chi. Yao, you are here. Uehara Kai seemed very happy to see Dong Shenyao and several others. Mr. Chi, we are going back to the village today, so I came to see you. Dong Shenyao explained. Yao, you are now Chunin, Xiaojun and Wenye will take care of you. Teacher Chi, don't worry, I will take good care of them. Dong Shenyao patted his chest and assured. Time passed slowly, and soon an hour would pass. Seeing that it was time to gather, Dong Shenyao could only reluctantly bid farewell to Kai Uehara. After saying goodbye to Kai Uehara, the four went outside the city. Outside the city, several people saw hundreds of ninjas standing here, some wrapped in white cloths, and some lying on stretchers being carried. However, there are still more than 20 ninjas who are still intact. Obviously they are specially escorting the wounded back. Excuse me, are you Dong Shenyao? As soon as the four of them came to the castle, a ninja walked over, and the most striking thing was that his eyes were actually white, even his pupils were white. Cataract, he's from the Hyuga family. That's how the people of the Hyuga family are so attractive. Yes, I'm Dong Shenyao, do you know me? Hello, my name is Hyuga Aikiho, I'm Yixin's older brother, thank you for saving my brother. After speaking, he actually bent down and bowed to Dong Shenyao. Ah, I can't. Dong Shenyao hurriedly avoided. I didn't expect you to be Hyuga Yixin's brother. Hyuga Yixin also saved me before, so the two of us are even. It's not the same. Yixin told me that with your strength, even if he doesn't take action, you will be fine, so he is not saving you at all. Anyway, our brothers remember this situation, and we can contact us for anything in the future. Hyuga said firmly. Okay, I see. Dong Shenyao knew that he couldn't refuse. East Shenyao, I'm the captain of the ninja team escorting the wounded this time, please take care of me. Well, take care of you. Because the Hyuga family still had work to do, they didn't talk much with Ta Shenyao and left soon after. Not long after Dong Shenyao and the others arrived, all the personnel had already arrived, so under the leadership of the Hyuga family, a group of hundreds of people set off. Because of the wounded, the team did not move fast. Since Hyuga is the leader, he didn't have time to look for Ta Shenyao, but Hyuga Yihei, after learning that Ta Shenyao was also in the team, went straight to him. Ta Shenyao, we meet again. Hyuga greeted with a smile. Hello Hyuga Yixin, I wonder how your injury is. Dong Shenyao asked Hyuga Yixin, who had a hand hanging on his chest. It's okay, it won't take long for this little injury to recover. Hyuga seemed very relaxed. With the contact with Hyuga Yixin, Ta Shenyao found that although Hyuga Yixin looked a little cold and seemed to be difficult to contact, he was actually a very cheerful and lively person. It didn't take long for Hyuga Yixin to meet Kudo-shun. A few people got together. For Hyuga Yixin, Kudo-shun and the others are also very fond of, because they found that Hyuga Yixin does not have the arrogance of being a big family ninja. Kudo-jun and the others have been ninjas a lot longer than Ta Shenyao, and basically all ninjas from various families have come into contact with them. Those ninjas from small families are fine. Some people from medium-sized families and even large families simply look down on commoner ninjas like Kudo-shun and the others, thinking that they have no background and are not strong enough. Especially the Uchiha family, they are very arrogant and difficult to get along with, while the Hyuga family is a little worse, but basically they are more taciturn, not good at talking, and not very easy to get in touch with. He didn't know about Dong Shenyao from other families, but he knew that the reason why the people of the Hyuga family were taciturn was probably because of the caged bird. Most of the Hyuga clan belong to separate families, and when they are very young, they will be planted with the sealing technique of caged birds. In this case, there are a few people who will be happy, which causes most of the Hyuga family to be withdrawn and do not like to be in contact with people. As for Hyuga Yixin, she is completely an outlier. Although she is also a member of Hyuga's branch, and has been planted with the sealing technique of a bird in a cage, she is very cheerful, just like the protagonist Naruto in the original book, and has not changed because of the external environment. Get gloomy. Due to Hyuga's single-minded character, Ta Shenyao and him soon became friends. From the hills and mountains to Konoha village, if the speed is fast, it can take more than half a day. But in order to take care of the wounded, Dong Shenyao and the others did not travel fast. It was not until the next evening that the group returned to Konoha. Yao, I'm going to the hospital, you have to play with me often in the future. Hyuga said reluctantly when they parted. At this point, the two have become friends, and Hyuga directly addresses Dong Shenyao by his name. Don't worry, I will find you, Dong Shenyao assured. Chapter 122 Sealed Book. After parting with Hyuga Yixin and others, Ta Shenyao did not go home or go to the hospital like the others, but went straight to the Hokage building like Hyuga. Hyuga One family, do you have anything to do with Hokage-sama? Dong Shenyao asked curiously. I'm on a mission. Escorting the wounded this time is a B-level mission, and I can get a lot of money. After I hand in the mission, I can buy Yixin's favorite meatballs. Speaking of this, Hyuga, a look of kindness appeared on his face. Yes, another brocon. Dong Shenyao was speechless. Aren't all the brothers in the Hokage world brocon? Dong Shenyao is too lazy to complain. The most famous brocon in the original book is Uchiha Itachi, and even sacrificed himself for his younger brother Sasuke. In addition, Uchiha Madara can also be regarded as brocon, because the death of his brother made him a little crazy, and he wanted to get infinite Tsukuyomi. There are also 4 generations of Raikage in the future. Although Killer Bee Jinchuriki, Column Force Killer Bee is not his younger brother, but the 4th generation of Raikage also takes good care of this righteous brother. Just when Dong Shenyao was thinking about it, the two had come to Hokage's office. Yao, you're back. Senju Tobarama was a little happy when he saw Ta Shenyao who came in. Well, Grandpa Hokage, I have completed the task. Although he said that, Dong Shenyao did not rush to hand over the task book, but looked at the Hyuga family. Hyuga was a little surprised by the relationship between Dong Shenyao and Hokage, but after seeing Dong Shenyao looking at him, he also reacted and knew that Dong Shenyao was asking him to hand in the task first. Grateful smile at Dong Shenyao, Hyuga hurriedly handed over the task book and said, Lord Hokage, Hyuga has completed the B-level escort mission. For the Hyuga family, Senju Tobarama appears calmer. After taking a look at the quest scroll, he said with satisfaction, You have done a good job, this is the reward for the quest. After taking the money, Hyuga knew that Dong Shenyao and the two had something to say, so he didn't stop and left. People are gone, Yao, you can talk now. Senju Tobarama looked at Dong Shenyao with a smile on his face. Obviously he also saw Dong Shenyao's intention. Hey, Grandpa Hokage, I don't have a lot of things to do, I'm afraid I will delay the time of Hyuga's family. Said, Dong Shenyao handed the task book to Senju Tobarama. Grandpa Hokage, this is the mission to explore the village, but now the village has been destroyed. As for the details, I have written it in the mission book. Senju Tobarama didn't read it after taking the task book, but put it aside. Senju Tobarama had already told me what happened before, but I didn't expect that the Kono ninja village would be destroyed like this. The Sunagakur village was so secretive that I didn't have time to rescue it. Senju Tobarama felt a little regretful. Village is located between Hefeng, the country of fire, and it can be regarded as a line of defense in the land of fire. In the previous battle, Konoha village also helped Konoha. Now Konoha village is destroyed, and Konoha will face Sunagakur village in the future. Threatened. Grandpa Hokage, this is a letter from Lord Xian to you. Said, Dong Shenyao took out the scroll that Sheni had given him before. Scroll again, this time Senju Tobarama looked very seriously. After more than 10 minutes, Senju Tobarama put the scroll down. I didn't expect so many things to happen in the hills, but fortunately, the line of defense was held. Thanks to you, Yao. Senju Tobarama was amazed and delighted after reading the contents on the reels. Surprisingly, the Hills and Hills defense line was almost lost, but in the end, they not only defended the defense line, but also severely damaged Sunagakur. Although there were also hundreds of ninja casualties on the Konoha side, compared with the thousands of ninjas injured in Sunagakur village, it was not very important. As for the thousands of soldiers who died, Senju Tobarama didn't care much, not from Konoha village anyway. This time Sunagakur village should have a truce. Senju Tobarama thought to himself. Since the Chunin exam was over, after seeing the strength of Konoha's new generation of ninjas, Sunagakur village and Iwagakure village did not have a direct truce, but they also slowed down the offensive, making the war into a stalemate. Just make a fuss. And this time Sunagakur village lost so many ninjas all at once, Senju Tobarama felt that Sunagakur village should not fight again. After all, even if Sunagakur village and Iwagakure village attacked Konoha at the same time, it would not be able to take advantage of it, let alone how dare it continue to fight against Konoha now that its strength is weakened. Yao, your credit is enough to directly become a Jonin, but unfortunately you are still weaker now, so you should be a special Jonin first, and when you reach the level of Jonin, I will directly promote you to Jonin. Quote. Dong Shenyao didn't think that he had just become Chunin and would become a special Jonin in a few days, which made Dong Shenyao a little surprised. Although this is only a title, it represents the status of a ninja in the village, which requires not only strength, but also contribution to the village. As far as Dong Shenyao knows, there are many Chunins in the village who have the strength of Jonin, but they still cannot become Jonin because of insufficient contribution. Thank you, Grandpa Hokage. This time Dong Shenyao didn't refuse. This reward is still a bit small, and I remember that you completed the task of escorting supplies last time. I still owe you a condition. Well, I can show you the Book of Seals once, which is a reward for you, but after that all your contributions are written off. The sealed book. Dong Shenyao did not expect Senju Tobarama to be so generous. The Book of Seals is a good thing. According to Tashinyao's understanding, not only the ninjutsu of Senju Tobarama and Senju Hashirama, but almost all the ninjutsu of the entire Konoha village are recorded on the Book of Seals. However, ordinary people are not qualified to read the seal. Except for Hokage, if others have made great contributions, they can only learn one or two kinds of ninjutsu from the Book of Seals. As for reading all of them, that is forget it. 5.9 Thank you Hokage-sama. Yao, you also know the importance of the Book of Seals. There are many secret techniques of the ninja family that are not passed down on it. After you read it, you must not spread it out, or I will kill you with my own hands, you know. Senju Tobarama was very strict. Said. What? Dong Shenyao did not expect that there is such a thing in the Book of Seals, and even the secrets of various ninja families that are not passed down. Don't worry, Lord Hokage, I will keep it a secret. Dong Shenyao also knew the seriousness of the matter. Once it was leaked, even if Senju Tobarama didn't take action, the major ninja families in Konoha village would tear him to pieces. Okay, Yao, you just came back, it's getting late, go back to rest first, come to me tomorrow morning, I'll take you to read the Book of Seals. As for your promotion to Special Jonin, wait until the hills and mountains are completely all posted when it's over. Chapter 123 Sly Senju Tobarama. With excitement, Dong Shenyao returned home. As soon as he thought that he would be able to watch the Book of Seals tomorrow and get the secret ninjutsu from various families, Dong Shenyao had an uncontrollable desire in his heart. Because he was too excited, Dong Shenyao even gave up the plan to exchange items, simply took a shower and lay on the bed. Dong Shenyao originally planned to take a nap, because when he fell asleep, he would not know anything, and the time would be lost quickly. But because his heart couldn't calm down for a long time, Dong Shenyao couldn't sleep at all. In the end, in desperation, Dong Shenyao could only practice Yi Jin Jing. Yi Jin Jing is indeed a Buddhist practice. It didn't take long for Dong Shenyao's heart to finally calm down. No. Suddenly, Dong Shenyao thought of a question. I didn't notice it because I was too excited before, but now that he has completely recovered his calm, Dong Shenyao thought of something. Previously, Senju Tobarama just said that I can read the Book of Seals, not to learn it. I don't have the ability to remember it. I just read it once. How can I remember the ninjutsu above 15? Ta Xinyao at this time found myself fooled. Indeed, there are a lot of ninjutsu on the Book of Seals, and Senju Tobarama is also generous enough to let him read them all, but how many can he remember with his memory? If I can remember 2 or 3, I am afraid that 5 is the limit of Dong Shenyao. Although Sharingan has the ability to copy, it can only copy actions, but cannot copy the contents of the book. Senju Tobarama is really cunning. At this time, Dong Shenyao realized that he was still too young. Even if he lived 2 lives, there was still a big gap compared to these old foxes. HMPH. Fortunately, I discovered the problem ahead of time, otherwise I'm afraid I'll go home empty-handed tomorrow. At this time, Dong Shenyao was very fortunate to be able to find out in advance, otherwise it would be too late to wait until tomorrow. No, I have to find a way. If it was in his original world, Dong Shenyao could also get a pinhole camera and secretly record the contents of the Book of Seals. Unfortunately, this is the world of Hokage. Although there is technology, it is still too long for technology to develop. Short and slow, not to mention pinhole cameras, even ordinary cameras are hard to get. Am I going to miss such a good opportunity? Dong Shenyao felt a little unwilling. Right, I have a system. Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao hurriedly entered the God-making space, and then summoned the exchange panel. Hopefully I can find something useful. Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao began to rummage. The night passed slowly, and Dong Shenyao woke up early the next morning, washed and had breakfast, and left home impatiently. Walking on the road, a sneer appeared on the corner of Dong Shenyao's mouth. Senju Tobarama, you didn't think that I would have a way to deal with it. I have to decide the contents of the sealed book. Thinking of what he found in the exchange system yesterday, Dong Shenyao was very proud, and a smile appeared on his face unconsciously. Meaning, wow, he's so handsome. A girl on the side of the road saw Dong Shenyao's sunny smile, and immediately started to become crazy. Soon Dong Shenyao came to Hokage's office. Yao, you came so early. Grandpa Hokage, I'm in a hurry to read the Book of Seals. Dong Shenyao said a little embarrassedly. Don't worry, the sealed book is there and won't run away. But since you're here, I'll take you there, come with me. With that, Senju Tobarama got up and left the office. Under the guidance of Senju Tobarama, Dong Shenyao went directly to the first floor of the Hokage building, but he did not stop there. Wow, there is actually a basement. Looking at the stairs in front of him, Dong Shenyao looked surprised. Okay, hurry up and follow, remember not to say anything you saw today. After instructing, Senju Tobarama walked down the stairs. Didn't speak, just followed behind Senju Tobarama with a curious look on his face. Following Senju Tobarama, Dong Shenyao came to the basement floor of the Hokage building. Through a long corridor, the two came to a room. Standing in front of the door, I saw Senju Tobarama quickly hand seal with both hands, and at this time Dong Shenyao quietly opened Sharingan and started copying. In just 3 seconds, Senju Tobarama has made more than 30 consecutive seals. If this speed is spread out, I don't know how many people will be ashamed. After finishing the seal, Senju Tobarama directly pressed his right hand on the gate. The next moment, I saw countless runes appearing on the gate. Dong Shenyao didn't know these runes, but I could see that this should be a very clever sealing technique. Solution. With Senju Tobarama's loud shout, the spell on the gate disappeared instantly. Okay, let's go in. After saying that, Senju Tobarama pushed the door and walked in. Following Senju Tobarama into the room, Dong Shenyao found that it was a very empty room, with an area of several hundred square meters, but there were only a few items in it, but the most noticeable one was the one in the center of the room. Huge scroll. That's not the Book of Seals, right? Dong Shenyao thought to himself. Soon, Senju Tobarama's next move confirmed Tashinyao's guess. I saw that he walked to the huge scroll in the center of the room, actually hand seal again, and then unlocked another layer of seal. It's so tight, there are so many sealing techniques. Sure enough, the 3 generations of Hokage in the original book have indeed released water. Otherwise, how could Naruto get the Book of Seals so easily? Just when Tashinyao was thinking about things, Senju Tobarama had already brought the scroll over. Yao, this is the Book of Seals. There are a total of 108 kinds of ninjutsu in it. Although there are not many, they are all good things. Now I can let you read it again. As for how many you can remember, it is up to you. Ah, just watch it once. Dong Shenyao's mouth widened in surprise. Senju Tobarama was very satisfied with Tashinyao's reaction, and at the same time proud of playing Tashinyao, but his face was very serious. Yao, the Book of Seals is the treasure of Konoha. It is very rare for you to read it once. Don't waste your time, you can read it quickly. After that, Senju Tobarama handed the scroll to Dong Shenyao. At this time, Dong Shenyao took the scroll with a very reluctant expression, but he did not open it directly, but looked at Senju Tobarama and asked, Grandpa Hokage, since this sealed book is so important, why is there no one to guard it? Could it be that just relying on these 2 layers of sealing techniques can ensure the safety of the sealed book? Ha ha ha, Yao, you don't know. There are many Anbu guards in this basement, but you just didn't see it. Chapter 124 Mastering the Stick, but Aiming for the Yard. Ha ha ha, Yao, you don't know. There are many Anbu guards in this basement, but you just didn't see it. Because I was there, Anbu who was hiding in the dark didn't show up. If people enter, they will be attacked immediately, and even Quenkage will have to retreat. Senju Tobarama said with some pride, at the same time he was also warning Dong Shenyao, it is best not to play any bad ideas. Wow, it's so tight, even Zunying can't break through it. Dong Shenyao pretended to exaggerate. That's natural, and there are not only powerful dark guards guarding here, but also a sealing technique specially invited by people from the Uzumaki family. After we leave, those sealing techniques will be activated, and the place will be impregnable by then. Seeing Dong Shenyao's surprised appearance made Senju Tobarama a little happy, and even revealed some relatively secret things. Of course, this is what Senju Tobarama told him because he believed that Tashinyao would not talk nonsense. Okay, don't waste any more time, hurry up and watch, we have to go after we finish it. Senju Tobarama urged. He is Hokage, there are still many things waiting for him to deal with, it is very rare to be able to take time to accompany Dong Shenyao here. I know Grandpa Hokage. After speaking, Dong Shenyao stopped talking, and after putting the scroll on the ground, he opened it to watch. Soon Tashinyao discovered that the first ninjutsu on the scroll was not the multiple shadow clone technique in the original book, but a demonic illusion. The art of darkness. This should be the demonic illusion that Senju Tobarama used on the third Hokage when he was released by Orochimaru Impure World Reincarnation in the original book. Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao did not rush to see the specific content of demonic illusion, but closed his eyes and quietly made a seal with one hand. Ninja eyes of reproduction. Huh. The next moment, Dong Shenyao opened his eyes and saw a golden light flashing in his eyes, but soon everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened just now. Then Tashinyao pretended to be nonchalant and began to seriously read the contents of the Book of Seals. Since Senju Tobarama was standing behind Tashinyao at this time, no abnormality was found, and this was also doomed. Senju Tobarama's plan was going to fail. Hey, Senju Tobarama, you can't think of it, the young master has a way to get the contents of the sealed book. At this time, Dong Shenyao was a little proud, and he didn't even look at the specific content of the sealed book at this time, just used his eyes carefully. Just scanned it once. 20 minutes later, Dong Shenyao had already read the entire Book of Seals. This is because he deliberately slowed down, otherwise it would be faster. Grandpa Hokage, I've finished reading it. Dong Shenyao did not deliberately delay the time, and after reading it once, he directly re-rolled the Book of Seals. So fast. Senju Tobarama was a little surprised. In his opinion, Tashinyao should deliberately slow down the time in order to remember the above ninjutsu. Even Senju Tobarama is ready, as long as Tashinyao can read it before noon. Unexpectedly, the whole process lasted less than half an hour. Is he going to give up on himself? Thinking of this, Tobarama felt a little regretful. He did play some tricks with Tashinyao before, but in his opinion, it was considered cheap Tobarama, because if Shenyao really had the heart, he would be able to use 2 or 3 practical ninjutsu techniques, and even if he had a good memory, it was not impossible to memorize 4 or 5. Hey, it seems that Yao is still young and his mental capacity is not enough, so he gave up like this. Senju Tobarama sighed in his heart, but of course he was not disappointed. After all, Dong Shenyao is still too young now, and it is normal for him to have low capacity. Yao, have you really read it? If you really liked which ninjutsu, Grandpa can let you write it down. Perhaps to compensate Tashinyao, Senju Tobarama even offered such a condition. Dong Shenyao heard the words, he was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Senju Tobarama to say such a thing, which made Dong Shenyao feel a lot better about Senju Tobarama. But he still refused. No need for Grandpa Hokage, the ninjutsu I want has been written down. Could he be a genius? Can he really do a few ninjutsu in such a short time? Senju Tobarama doubted again at this time. Of course, he would not think that Dong Shenyao had the ability to memorize all the contents of the sealed book. Okay, in that case, please go first, Grandpa, I have to rearrange the seal technique. Senju Tobarama said after picking up the Book of Seals from the ground. Well, goodbye, Grandpa Hokage. Dong Shenyao was also anxious to go back now, so he said goodbye to Senju Tobarama directly, and then went back to the first floor of the Hokage building along the way he came. Seeing Dong Shenyao leaving in a hurry, Senju Tobarama's doubts became more intense. He didn't know whether Dong Shenyao remembered the contents of the sealed book. Didn't know the question in his mind when he went to Senju Tobarama. All he thought at this moment was to go home quickly and write down the contents of the sealed book. I saw Dong Shenyao trotting back home after leaving the Hokage building. Then he closed the doors and windows tightly, and then drew the curtains. After arranging everything, I saw Dong Shenyao took out a huge scroll that had been prepared a long time ago, and then prepared a pen. Start. Ninja eyes of reproduction. Following Dong Shenyao's one-handed hand seal, the next moment he saw a beam of light shoot out from his eyes, and the beam directly irradiated the wall in front of Dong Shenyao, and then he saw that the seal was displayed on the wall. The content of the book. Senju Tobarama, don't you think, the Tao is 1 foot tall, the devil is 1 foot tall, although you want to play the little master, but it is cheap for me. At this time, Dong Shenyao was very proud. However, he knew that the time was limited, so he quickly adjusted his mood and began to record the content projected on the wall on the huge blank scroll in front of him. It's just that Dong Shenyao didn't use the words of the Hokage world, but Chinese characters, so even if this scroll was obtained by others in the future, it was impossible to learn any ninjutsu from it. Dong Shenyao wrote very fast, and in less than an hour, he recorded all the 108 ninjutsus on the Book of Seals. Don't look at only 108, but these ninjutsus are either peculiar or amazing, and the ninjutsu that can be recorded in the Book of Seals is very precious. Solution. After writing down all the ninjutsu, Dong Shenyao unlocked the ninjutsu, and then saw the golden beam in his eyes slowly disappear. Chapter 125 Spiritual Training. I didn't expect this replicating eye to be so useful. Putting away the ninja surgery, Dong Shenyao smiled and got the 108 ninjutsu on the Book of Seals. Of course he was happy. As for this copying pupil, it was the ninjutsu that Dong Shenyao exchanged from the system last night. In order to obtain the ninjutsu on the Book of Seals, Dong Shenyao stayed in the god-making space for a long time yesterday, and finally chose the pupil of copying. In fact, there are some things in the exchange system that can record the contents of the Book of Seals. Some are items, some are ninjutsu, and even Dong Shenyao found a bloodstain boundary in it, which is also a kind of eye related. The bloodstain limit of, is just not comparable to the bloodstains of Sharingan and Byakugan. The bloodstain boundary discovered by Dong Shenyao has no other function, but can record everything that his eyes see within a period of time, whether it is physical movements or books. It sounds good, and I can memorize the opponent's hand seal, S technique, which looks similar to Sharingan, S copy ninjutsu. But in fact, this bloodstain boundary cannot see through the flow of chakra, that is to say, you can only remember the hand seal gesture of others at most, but you can't remember the flow of chakra, so it is useless at all. After all, every time a type of ninjutsu has a specific flow of chakra. If you can't learn this, even if you can learn the hand seal, you won't be able to. It can be said that this kind of blood is very tasteless, but it needs a lot of magic points, so in the end, Dong Shenyao gave up and chose a kind of ninjutsu, which is the copy pupil he used before. This copying pupil is similar to the bloodstain boundary that Dong Shenyao saw before. After using it, it can record the content seen for a period of time, but this record is not recorded in the memory of Dong Shenyao, but stored in the eye. As for the time that can be recorded, this is not necessarily, but the longer the recording time, the more chakra it will take. Before only recording more than 20 minutes, Dong Shenyao spent nearly a quarter of the chakra. And this record can only be saved for 12 hours, and it will continue to consume chakra while saving. Once the chakra is exhausted, even if the time is not up, the recorded things will disappear, so Dong Shenyao was so anxious just now go home. However, as long as the things recorded with the copying pupil did not disappear, the content recorded by it can be released in the form of a slideshow anytime, anywhere. Just like just now, Dong Shenyao projected the content on the wall. Although this ninjutsu is not very effective, it is very cheap. Even if Dong Shenyao learns it directly, it only costs Dong Shenyao 10 points of creation. At this time, ninjutsu has been recorded, and Dong Shenyao is also relieved. Then he sat directly on the ground and began to think about which ninjutsu to learn next. Was recording it, Dong Shenyao had already read the above ninjutsu roughly. Most of them were the ninjutsus that Senju Tobarama and Senju Hashirama knew, and the rest were the secret techniques of various ninja families. Among them, there are various Mokuden, wood-style, ninjutsu belonging to Senju Hashirama, which was directly removed by Tashinyao. After all, he doesn't know Mokuden, wood-style, yet. In addition to Mokuden, wood-style, there is also the psychic technique used by Orochimaru later, Rashomon. This is not bad. It is a relatively powerful defensive ninjutsu, and was temporarily selected by Dong Shenyao. After that is Senju Tobarama's ninjutsu, most of which are Suiten, water-style, ninjutsu. After all, what Senju Tobarama is best at is sweetened water style. In addition, there are some ninjutsu invented by Senju Tobarama, such as the Hiraishin technique that Namikaze Minato is famous for in later generations, the technique of impure world reincarnation used by the Orochi Kabuto for the Fourth Ninja World War, and the technique of multiple shadow clone, etc. To be said that Senju Tobarama's ability to develop ninjutsu is really strong, and even Dong Xinyao, a traveler, has to admire it. In the future, Ta Xinyao has the confidence to surpass Senju Tobarama in strength, but when it comes to the development of ninjutsu, Ta Xinyao has no confidence to surpass Senju Tobarama. In addition to the ninjutsu of the two Hokages, there are actually gentle fist methods of the Hyuga family, Kaden fire style, and shuriken skills of the Uchiha family, and Ino Shikacho on the Book of Seals. The secret ninjutsu of the three families, etc. There are many ninjutsus that Ta Xinyao has never heard of, but although there are many ninjutsus, most of them are not suitable for Ta Xinyao. For example, most of the secret techniques of Ino Shikacho require special training conditions or specific usage conditions. Among them, the shadow magic of the Nara family requires special chakra attributes, and the Akamichi family needs to store a lot of fat. As for the secret methods of other major families, most of them have special conditions, and if there are no conditions, Dong Xinyao does not look down on them. Finally, after thinking about it, Dong Xinyao realized that most of the ninjutsu in the Book of Seals were useless to him. In fact, he didn't need so much trouble to record the entire Book of Seals. As this considered superfluous. At this time, Dong Xinyao was no longer excited at the beginning. Of course, although most of the ninjutsu are useless to Ta Xinyao, there are still some ninjutsus that have been favored by Ta Xinyao. The ghouls are sealed. This is the ninjutsu of the fourth generation Hokage to seal Kyubi, 9 tails. Hiraishin's technique. This is a space ninjutsu. Yes, it's elusive, and it can also travel long distances is very good. This must be learned. Hey, spiritual tempering technique. Soon Dong Xinyao saw something that interested him. Spiritual power exists in the ninja world, and even the composition of chakra contains spiritual power, and demonic illusion uses spiritual power even more. But Dong Xinyao had never seen a way to cultivate spiritual power. This is the secret method of the Yamanaka family. By the way, the Yamanaka family is good at spiritual power, and many secret methods need to be motivated by strong spiritual power. It seems that because of the existence of spiritual power tempering, the Yamanaka family is talented. Will have spiritual power beyond ordinary ninjas. Quote. It can be said that with this spiritual power tempering technique, Dong Xinyao will not lose at all. Then he picked out a few more Kaden, fire style, ninjutsu and recorded them, then put away the scroll. Let's try the effect of this spiritual power tempering technique first. At this time, Dong Xinyao couldn't wait. Immediately, Dong Xinyao began to practice according to the method recorded in the spiritual power tempering technique. I don't know if it is because Dong Xinyao is talented, or if this tempering technique is very simple. Dong Xinyao successfully learned it in less than 10 minutes. Chapter 126 Flying God Thunder. Dong Xinyao didn't think that this mental power quenching technique was so simple to practice, and it didn't take long to succeed, but after the success, Dong Xinyao found that this mental power quenching technique was a bit tasteless. Originally, Dong Xinyao thought that this spiritual power quenching technique was a technique for cultivating spiritual power, but he increased his spiritual power, but when he practiced it, he found out that it was really just a quenching technique, which could only quench spiritual power and increase spiritual power. The purity of power, but not the increase in quantity. And the speed of tempering is also very slow. Dong Xinyao roughly estimated that if he tempered without sleep for a whole day, he would probably increase the purity of his spiritual power by 1%. It seems that the speed is okay, but how can a person be quenching spiritual power all day long? You must know that tempering spiritual power is also very tiring. Tempering for 2 or 3 hours a day is already the limit of Dong Xinyao. If it's just slow, it's fine, the key is that it still has a limit. After discovering that the cultivation speed of this spiritual power quenching technique is slow, Dong Shenyao deliberately went to the exchange system to find this skill. The exchange system claims to have everything in the ninja world, and of course this tempering technique also has it. After reading it, Dong Shenyao almost vomited blood. Even if the speed of this tempering technique is slow in tempering spiritual power, the most hateful thing is that there is still a limit, and it can only purify spiritual power by 30% at most. It's tasteless. Dong Shenyao smiled bitterly. No wonder the Yamanaka clan took out this secret method so easily. It turned out to be so tasteless. Let me just say, if there are no restrictions on this secret method, the Yamanaka clan's strength can't be only those. Shaking his head helplessly, Dong Shenyao temporarily put this spiritual power tempering technique aside. Although this exercise is a bit tasteless, it is useful in the end, and this also gives Dong Shenyao a hint. Just now, he deliberately searched for the skills of cultivating spiritual power in the exchange system, and found that there really is one, called spiritual power meditation, which can increase the amount of spiritual power. According to the introduction on the system, Dong Shenyao discovered that this meditation technique is also from the Yamanaka family. It seems that this meditation technique is the root of the Yamanaka clan. It seems that all the ninja clans are really hiding, and the real good things have not been fully brought out. Dong Shenyao had a clear understanding in his heart. It was only at this time that Dong Shenyao discovered that he had only discovered the secret techniques of various families before, but the conditions for using these secret techniques, as well as some supporting cultivation methods, were not available. It can be said that even if outsiders get it, it is useless. Just like the shadow secret method of the Nara family, there is no matching method for practicing special chakra, and outsiders can't use it at all. There is also the gentle fist method of the Hyuga family, even if outsiders get it, because there is no Byakugan, it can't be used at all. All of them are old foxes, but you don't think I have a system. Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao suddenly laughed. Because at this time, he found that these ninjutsu are not so tasteless to him. Others may not be able to practice if they get it, but he is different. He has a system, and he can exchange anything from the system. There are some in the Hokage world, and they can be exchanged in the system. Thinking that there is one ninjutsu he hasn't read yet, Tashinyao temporarily suppressed his thoughts and began to check the ninjutsu he was most looking forward to, the technique of Hiraishin. The technique of Hiraishin is a rare space-type ninjutsu in the Hokage world, and it is a space-type ninjutsu that does not require special bloodstains. It can be said that it is very precious. Although Kakashi and Obito in later generations will all use space ninjutsu, but they are all brought by Sharingan and cannot be used by outsiders at all. But Hiraishin is different. Maybe it is very difficult to cultivate, but it does not require special bloodstains, which reduces the threshold for its use a lot. The reason why there are so few people in the original book is mainly because there are too few people who can come into contact with the art of Hiraishin. After all, this is also a kind of secret technique of Konoha. In addition to Hokage of the past dynasties, I am afraid that it is those who have made great contributions to Konoha, are some strong people. As for the others, there is simply no chance to learn. If the technique of Hiraishin can be popularized, there may be a few more ninjas who can use it. After all, the 3 Shiranui Genma were able to learn the art of Hiraishin under the guidance of the 4 generations of Hokage Namikaze Minato. Although it takes 3 people to activate it, at least they can be used. With anticipation, Dong Shenyao began to look at the practice of Hiraishin's art. Soon, Dong Shenyao's brows were wrinkled, because he found that the most crucial point to practice the Hiraishin technique is the Hiraishin technique. And the Hiraishin technique is not fixed. Everyone's technique is different, you can only find the most suitable one for you. Just like Senju Tobarama's Hiraishin spell is a pattern, and the 4th Hokage's is a rune. In the practice of Hiraishin's technique, Senju Tobarama gave a basic technique, and now Dong Shenyao needs to add his own things to this basic technique and carve his own brand. In fact, the Hiraishin technique can also be said to be a kind of ID card. Each technique represents a person and cannot be used by others. Just like the 4th generation Hokage of Senju Tobarama, Horaitian technique cannot be used. This is a layer of insurance, otherwise it would be dangerous if anyone could use it. It's just that this step looks simple. The key is that it involves a lot of knowledge, such as sealing techniques. The key is that these are only things that Dong Shenyao doesn't know much about now. Hey, it seems that you need to learn a lot of things if you want to practice the Flying God Thunder technique. Dong Shenyao was a little helpless. If it weren't for the direct exchange of the God-making points required for the Horaitian technique, it would be too expensive, and Dong Shenyao planned to exchange it. Seeing that the technique of Horaitian could not be cultivated for the time being, Dong Shenyao found that this time, watching the Book of Seals did not seem to gain much. Forget it, let's exchange it. This time Chulingshan has gained so many God-building points, and it's time to spend it. Dong Shenyao was not a miser. He knew that the most useful thing was to convert the God creation points into strength. Otherwise, the more God creation points would be just a bunch of numbers. Dong Shenyao had already thought about what to exchange for. After entering the God-making space, Dong Shenyao summoned the exchange panel and directly selected the exchange. It's up to you, the 8 Inner Gates. Chapter 127 The 8 Inner Gates. The 8 Inner Gates is an extremely powerful physical technique in the Hokage world. I dare not say that it is the strongest, but it is definitely among the best. Generally, all 8 gates are fully open. Non-6 paths level powerhouses are unstoppable. Except for those from the impure world reincarnation below the paths level, I think Izanagi is the only way to survive. However, although the 8 doors are fully opened, the consequences are also serious. Although the 8 doors can be opened to gain great strength, the damage to the body is also extremely serious. Once the 8 doors are opened, it is difficult to survive. Therefore, the 8 inner gates can also be regarded as a taboo body technique. And now Dong Shenyao decided to exchange for the 8 inner gates. Although the 8 inner gates have obvious shortcomings, their power is also very considerable. Moreover, the reason why the 8 inner gates will cause damage to the human body is that the body is not strong enough. If the body is strong enough to block the backlash of the 8 inner gates, then even if the 8 inner gates are fully opened, they can survive. For Dong Shenyao, who has practiced Yi Jin Jing, there is no doubt about his physical strength. He has only cultivated to the 5th form, and his physical strength can already be comparable to that of the special Jonin who specializes in physique training, and his body has the ability to recover. Also very powerful. Once he cultivates Yi Jin Jing to a higher level, Dong Shenyao has the confidence to block the counterattack of the 8 inner gates. It can be said that the 8 inner gates is the most suitable taijutsu for Ta Shenyao. The 8 inner gates is an S-level skill in the system. Originally, the power of the 8 inner gates was enough to be included in the SS level. However, because of its terrible backlash power and the training conditions are too high, the system only it is listed as S grade. However, this is cheaper for Dong Shenyao. After all, if it is SS rank, Dong Shenyao may not be able to exchange it now. System, I want to exchange the 8 inner gates. Dong Shenyao shouted to the sky. The 8 inner gates, an S-level skill, requires 90,000 God-making points to learn directly, and 10,000 God-making points to exchange for the training method. Please choose the exchange method. Dong Shenyao was not surprised by the system's words, because he already knew about it, and he had already thought about it. I want to exchange the training method in the system. Dong Shenyao made a decision in an instant. Dong Shenyao had already asked the system before. Even if he directly learned the 8 inner gates, the system only allowed him to gain the ability to open the 8 gates in his body, but it would not enhance his physical fitness. In this way, direct learning becomes a tasteless rib. After all, with his current physical fitness, it is already the limit to open the 5th or 6th door. If it is higher, it will cause irreversible damage to the body. Since the following doors can't be opened yet, Dong Shenyao might as well just exchange the training method and practice slowly. The system didn't speak. Just the next moment, a golden light was set. The light Jinchuriki column shines in front of Dong Shenyao, and a box is suspended in the golden light. After Dong Shenyao reached out and took out the box, he couldn't wait to call, and a scroll appeared in the box. After taking out the scroll, Dong Shenyao couldn't wait to open it and take a closer look. When Dong Shenyao finished reading the contents on the scroll, a smile appeared on his face. The 8 inner gates is not as difficult to cultivate as Hiraishin's art, or the cultivation method of the 8 inner gates is simply terrible. The only requirement is to have high physical strength. Backlash died directly. Opening the 8 inner gates can also be said to be constantly breaking the limits of the body and exerting strength beyond the limits of the body. Although the 8 inner gates is easy to cultivate, Dong Shenyao is not in a hurry to cultivate because his exchange is not over yet. Now he only spent 10,000 creation points, but he still has more than 10,000 left. Soon Dong Shenyao found the second thing he wanted to exchange. The system I want to exchange for spiritual power meditation. It is the skill that Dong Shenyao discovered before. Although the effect of this meditation method is not very good, it is also what Dong Shenyao needs most now. Spiritual power meditation method, A-level skill, requires 1000 magic points. Is it redeemable? Exchange. After Dong Shenyao was confirmed, another light, Jinchuriki column, shot down soon. Unlike before, this light Jinchuriki column shone directly on Dong Shenyao's body. When the light Jinchuriki column disappeared, Dong Shenyao found that there was more information in his mind, which was the content of the spiritual power meditation method, and Dong Shenyao found that he had learned this meditation method, and he could start meditating at any time. It's really convenient. Dong Shenyao is not in a hurry to cultivate, and the exchange is still going on. Then Dong Shenyao spent 9,000 god-making points to exchange for a perfect bloodline of the Hyuga family. To be said that the bloodline of the Hyuga clan is much worse than that of the Uchiha clan. The perfect Uchiha bloodline needs 50,000 points, but the perfect Hyuga bloodline only needs 9,000. The golden light shrouded Dong Shenyao. Under the transformation of the golden light, Dong Shenyao felt incomparable pain all over his body. The feeling of pain penetrating into the bone marrow was the same as the last time he exchanged Uchiha's blood. I don't know how long it took. The golden light dissipated, and Dong Shenyao returned to normal. After condensing a mirror in front of him, Dong Shenyao quickly checked his eyes. Unlike the Uchiha clan, the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan are born and do not need to open their eyes, but they will bulge out the meridians near the temples when using them. However, the bloodline of the perfect Hyuga family exchanged by Dong Shenyao does not have this disadvantage. Even if Dong Shenyao uses Byakugan, there will be no change in him, which is why he exchanged the bloodline of perfection. After all, if there is an abnormality when using it, it is easy to be found. As for the issue of cataracts, it's even easier. Now Dong Shenyao wears beauty contact lenses, and outsiders can't notice his changes at all. Even Dong Shenyao himself did not notice anything abnormal when he looked in the mirror at this time. However, when he took off the contact lenses, he found that his entire eyes had turned 0.7% white. Sharingan on. The next moment, when Dong Shenyao turned on Sharingan, he found that a bloody Yui-colored pupil appeared in the center of the eyeball, but to Dong Shenyao's surprise, the black tomo that appeared after Sharingan turned on turned white. Is this a combination of Sharingan and Byakugan? But this kind of change is not bad. It would be even better if the change can be bigger in the future. It's better that the Uchiha family and the Hyuga family can't find the problem. Said. After a simple experiment, Dong Shenyao found that his eyesight had been strengthened again. As for Byakugan's see-through function, of course, Dong Shenyao also tried it. Dong Shenyao found that he could now see through a distance of more than 400 meters at most. Chapter 128 A Wonderful Story. After simply experimenting with Byakugan's ability, Dong Shenyao put on the color contacts again and came out of the god-making space. After all, everything that should be exchanged has been exchanged now, and it is useless to continue to stay. Seeing that there were not many god-making points left, Dong Shenyao found that the god-making points were still not enough. Originally, there were more than 22,000 god creation points, but now there are only more than 2,000 left. Compared to the beginning, these god building points are not too few, but for the current Dong Shenyao, more than 2,000 god building points can't do much. After coming out of the god creation space, Dong Shenyao simply ate lunch and began to practice. Cultivation is like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you will retreat, so Dong Shenyao will not miss any opportunity to cultivate. Dong Shenyao first practiced Yi Jinjing, and then exercised the ability of soil and soil fruit. After that, Dong Shenyao officially began to practice the 8 inner gates. The 8 inner gates is a physical art that breaks the limit, so the cultivation method is also extremely difficult, and it needs to be practiced beyond the limit. I saw Dong Shenyao directly condensed a high-density rock-made clothes on himself and started doing push-ups. Although it is only a rock suit, it weighs several thousand kilograms. Spent in the cultivation of Dong Shenyao 15. The next day, Dong Shenyao just practiced in the morning, and then went out. It has been 2 days since he came back, and he is going to see Kimura Fumino. What Tashinyao didn't expect was that he had just arrived at Kimura Fumino's house, but found that Kudo-shun had just arrived too. Brother Jun, what a coincidence. Yeah, I didn't expect you to come too. Kudo-jun smiled. You have a conscience to know to come and see me. Kimura Fumino seemed a little happy to see both of them coming. Kimura Fumino's mother warmly welcomed the two of them, prepared a lot of snacks and tea, and then she left without disturbing the 3 of them. Auntie is so sweet, Kudo-jun said enviously. In his opinion, Kimura Fumino's mother is definitely more virtuous than his own. Xiaojun, don't be deceived. My mother is good to you. She is very strict with me when there is no one. Kimura Fumino smiled bitterly. Dong Shenyao did not speak. He thought of his mother. Mother, I must resurrect you all. Dong Shenyao clenched his fists secretly. Soon Kudo-shun and the two discovered that Dong Shenyao's mood was a bit wrong. Thinking that his parents had both died and that he was now an orphan, they both felt embarrassed. I'm sorry that Yao, it reminds you of sad things. Kudo-jun apologized. It's okay, I'm used to it. Dong Shenyao said with a smile. Then Kimura Fumino and the two did not continue to talk about their mother, but directly changed the subject. Yao, I heard that there was an accident in your mission this time, what happened? Kimura Fumino asked. Let me tell you. Before Dong Shenyao could speak, Kudo-jun answered first. Tashinyao didn't care about this, because he knew that Kudo-shun's favorite thing to do was tell stories. Fun Yi, do you know? At that time, Lord Hokage sent us a very difficult task. He learned that the Konoha village was attacked by a mysterious and powerful force. Elite sent over. After arriving at the corner ninja village, we found that the corner ninja village had been destroyed, and then we began to look for clues. As a great Konoha ninja, Tashin Kudo quickly found clues, and after a battle of wits, we killed dozens of Anbu from Sunagaku village, and finally learned of a huge conspiracy. In the end, with the efforts of me and Yao, the plot of Sunagaku village was finally destroyed, and the hills and mountains defense line was kept. After more than an hour, Kudo-shun finished the whole thing. Of course, although the general process was correct, it was processed by Kudo-shun himself, which made the whole thing bizarre. Shenyao said that it was like a god, while the 3 of Nishimura were reduced to dragon roles. Listening to Tashin Kudo's rhetoric there, Tashinyao felt a little bit ashamed of Yuhi, because Tashin Kudo told him so perfectly in the story. He even said that he killed hundreds of Sunagaku alone. This level of exaggeration made Tashinyaoji wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. What Tashinyao didn't expect was that even though what Tashin Kudo said was very bizarre, and there were even problems with logic in many places, Kimura Fumino was still listening carefully and asked some questions from time to time, which made Tashinyao some more speechless. As expected of good friends, these two are really a good match. Dong Shenyao secretly complained in his heart. When Kudo-jun finished the whole thing, Kimura Fumino directly applauded. Xiaojun, your story is so wonderful, I didn't expect you to have such talent. I think Xiaojun, don't be a ninja, change career as a novelist, then you will definitely become the most famous novelist in the ninja world. Kimura Fumino exclaimed. PFF'd. Dong Shenyao directly sprayed out the sip of tea he had just drank. He didn't expect that Kimura Fumino was actually listening to this as a story. It seems that I have wronged Brother Wenye. Dong Shenyao thought to himself. At the same time, Kudo-shun was directly petrified, and he did not expect that after talking about it for a long time, it turned out to be the result, especially in the end. Dong Shenyao's saliva sprayed directly on him. Brother Jun, I'm really sorry. Dong Shenyao said apologetically. It's okay, Yao, hurry up and tell Wenyi. What I just said is not a story, but a real thing. Kudo-jun looked at Dong Shenyao with a begging face. Seeing Kudo-jun's pitiful appearance, Ta Shenyao certainly couldn't refuse, and immediately explained. Brother Wenye, what Brother Jun said just now is basically fine, just added a few more things. Yao, you don't need to explain, I know it. I've been in a team with Xiaojun for more than a year, how could I not understand his habits? It used to be like this, even if it was just an ordinary sea-level mission, he could, it is said, to save the world. Kimura Fumino said indifferently. Dong Shenyao was speechless, he did not expect Kudo-shun to have such a glorious history. Kimura Fumino did not continue to ask Ta Shenyao, because he knew Kudo-shun very well, so he directly blocked Kudo-shun's exaggerated content in his head, which made him basically clear about the entire task process. I really envy you. The experience during this time is really wonderful. It would be great if I hadn't been injured. Kimura Fumino said enviously. Chapter 129 Quest. Find Tsunade. Ta Shenyao and Kudo-shun stayed at Kimura Fumino's house all afternoon. The three chatted, and finally left after having dinner here. At this time, Kimura Fumino's injury has recovered, and before leaving, the three agreed to go to Senju Tobarama tomorrow to collect the task. After returning home, Dong Shenyao practiced well before going to sleep. The night passed, and the next morning, the three of Dong Shenyao gathered at the old place and went straight to the Hokage building. After seeing Senju Tobarama, before Dong Shenyao could check the mission, Senju Tobarama said with a smile on his face, "You are here just in time, I just received news that Tsunade has run away from home, please help me find Tsunade." Quote. Grandpa Hokage, is Tsunade your granddaughter Senju Tsunade? Dong Shenyao asked quickly. That's right, she had a fight with me this morning, and who knew she ran away from home in a fit of rage. If the teacher at the ninja school said she didn't come to school today, I wouldn't know about it. Senju Tobarama felt helpless said. Don't worry, Grandpa Hokage, we will definitely bring Tsunade back. Dong Shenyao assured. If it was someone else, Dong Shenyao might have to hesitate, but since it was Tsunade, of course Dong Shenyao would not refuse. Dong Shenyao is the captain. Since he agreed, Kimura Fumino and the two will not refuse, let alone something that can help Hokage so well. Grandpa Hokage, do you know whether Tsunade is in the village or outside the village now? After accepting the mission, Dong Shenyao asked about the mission details. I should have left the village. I just asked Anbu to look for it. If it was in the village, I should have found it. Since there is no, it means that Tsunade has left the village. The main gate of the village is very strictly guarded. It is impossible for Tsunade to leave from there, so the only possibility is the back mountain. Senju Tobarama repeated the detailed information. Well, it's not too late, Grandpa Hokage, let's go. Said, Ta Shenyao and Kudo-shun left the office. Although Tsunade is one of the future Sannin, and the 5th generation Hokage, but after all, he is still too young and weak. There were quite a few beasts outside the village. Dong Shenyao was afraid that Tsunade would be in danger, so he unconsciously quickened his pace. Although from the original work, Tsunade should have nothing to do, but since there is a him in this world now, who knows if there will be a butterfly effect. Ding! Release the system quest. Find and bring back Tsunade. Rank B, the quest rewards 500 God-making points. Does the host accept it? Ta Shenyao just leaving the Hokage building system rang out. Accept. This was originally what Dong Shenyao had to do, and since the mission was released, of course he had to accept it. It was just a B-level mission, which made Dong Shenyao feel relieved. Since the system said that this is only a B-level task, then the difficulty is not very big, at least it will not be life-threatening. Because of the high speed, it only took a few minutes to reach the mountain behind Konoha village. The so-called back mountain is the place behind the Konoha Hokage cliff. The village of Konoha is built on the back of Hokage cliff, behind which are rolling mountains and woods. Yow, the area here is so big, who knows which direction Tsunade ran to, how can we find it? Looking at the endless forest in front of him, Kimura Fumino said with a headache. Dong Shenyao also frowned at this time. Before, I just wanted to find Tsunade quickly, but I forgot that the area behind the mountain is so big. Don't worry, I'll take a look first. Said, Dong Shenyao directly opened both Byakugan and Sharingan. A minute later, under Dong Shenyao's careful search, he finally found some clues. At the edge of the forest he found a footprint, small and shallow, apparently that of a small child. The footprints are still fresh, they should be Tsunade's. Dong Shenyao said after squatting and observing for a while. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and look for it. Kudo-jun was about to rush into the woods to look for it. Wait a minute. Dong Shenyao stopped him directly. Brother Jun, why are you still so reckless? Don't forget that we are not looking for ordinary children, but Hokage's granddaughter. Although Tsunade is still young, she is very smart, so just a footprint can't explain anything. Knowing that Tsunade ran away from home, she obviously doesn't want to be found, so it is possible to raise suspicions. Dong Shenyao analyzed. Yao, are you worrying too much? Tsunade is just a child with little experience. How could he do such a thing? Kudo-shun said in dissatisfaction. Okay, be careful, it will be troublesome if we go in the wrong direction. Kimura Fumino persuaded. Okay, seeing that both of them said so, Kudo-jun could only give up. Then Dong Shenyao searched for a while, and quickly stopped again. What's wrong with Yao? Seeing Dong Shenyao staring at the ground, Kudo-shun was a little puzzled, because there were no footprints on the ground. This place was cleaned up not long ago. Dong Shenyao said with a serious expression. Ordinary people may not see it, but with the dual blessing of Sharingan and Byakugan, Dong Shenyao can see the difference here. Could it be Tsunade? Kimura Fumino exclaimed. There are few people in the back mountain, and even if someone comes, they will not deliberately cover up anything. Now that there are traces of cleaning here, it is obviously only Tsunade. Yao, what are we going to do next? This time Kudo-shun had a memory and knew that he should ask first. Although there are traces left here, it is not certain that this is what Tsunade did to cover up his whereabouts instead of deliberately, so we can only divide our forces now. You search forward from the place where you found the traces, and I will start from here. Look for it. Dong Shenyao quickly made arrangements. Yo, are you thinking too much? Tsunade is only a child after all. This time even Kimura Fumino was a little hesitant. Although my guess may be wrong, as long as there is a chance, then we can't bet. Well, time waits for no one, let's act quickly. By the way, if we don't find Tsunade before dark, come back here. Assemble. After speaking, Dong Shenyao flew up and rushed into the woods. Seeing that Dong Shenyao had already made a decision, Kimura Fumino and the two could only do it, and soon the two entered the woods from the place where the footprints were found before. Chapter 130 Tsunade is caught. After entering the woods, Dong Shenyao kept searching for traces left by Tsunade. Although Tsunade is very smart and knows how to erase his own traces, he is still young and not very clean. Under Sharingan and Byakugan, Dong Shenyao still found some traces. According to these traces, Dong Shenyao pursued it all the way. From Senju Tobarama, Dong Shenyao learned that Tsunade had only left home for more than 2 hours. According to Tsunade's speed, he couldn't go very far. Soon Dong Shenyao chased out more than 10 miles away. Suddenly, Dong Shenyao stopped under a tree, because the trace of Tsunade was broken here. What's the matter? Dong Shenyao was a little puzzled. Under Byakugan's insight, Ta Shenyao soon found a rag in a bush. This is Tsunade's. Dong Shenyao recognized at a glance that the color and material of the rags were the same as Tsunade's clothes. No, Tsunade may be in danger. At this moment, a bad premonition rose in Dong Shenyao's heart. I saw Dong Shenyao holding the rag tightly in his hand, and then he used the Byakugan with all his strength to investigate the situation around him. Perhaps because of the potential explosion of Dong Shenyao's excitement at this time, Byakugan's detection range has become larger. Before, the detection range of Tashinyao Byakugan was only 420 to 30 meters at most, but now it has directly reached the level of close to 780 to 600 meters. Although Byakugan does not have a clear level division like Sharingan, Tashinyao learned from the system that Byakugan is still graded. Primary Byakugan, that is, the Byakugan has just been turned on. At this time, the Byakugan is very weak in terms of detection range and perspective ability, and even cannot penetrate the human body to see the ninja's meridians, and the detection range is only 100 meters at most. Next is the intermediate Byakugan. At this time, Byakugan can already see through the meridians of the human body and use gentle fist, and the range has also been greatly increased, up to 1000 meters. Now Dong Shenyao's Byakugan level is intermediate, which is also the benefit of the perfect Hyuga bloodline. He has just reached the intermediate level after getting the Byakugan. If it is replaced by the Hyuga family, it takes an average of 10 years of practice. The intermediate Byakugan is the high-level Byakugan. This level of Byakugan is already considered to be the highest realm. Not only the ability to see through and the scope of reconnaissance are greatly enhanced, but it can also strengthen oneself. Advanced Byakugan is turned on. It can strengthen the body for a period of time, both speed and strength will be increased. Just like the Uchiha clan can be comparable to Jonin once the 3 Tomo Sharingan are turned on, the Hyuga clan can also be comparable to Jonin in strength if Byakugan reaches the advanced level. However, at this time, Byakugan of Dong Shenyao is still a long way from the advanced level. Of course, he can also use the system to exchange it, but he can't exchange it for the time being. With Byakugan's perspective and long-distance reconnaissance ability, Dong Shenyao soon found a piece of cloth more than 50 meters away. It seems that this should be a clue left by Tsunade. Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao hurried over. In this way, Dong Shenyao would find a small piece of cloth every tens of meters, and after chasing it for several miles, messy footprints began to appear on the ground. Obviously the enemy thought it was safe here, so they didn't erase the traces. At this time, Tsunade's clothes were also gone. Then Dong Shenyao followed the footprints on the ground, and finally found the enemy's trail 6 or 7 hours later. At this time, it was already dusk, and Dong Shenyao discovered through Byakugan that there were people moving more than 100 meters away, and Dong Shenyao discovered the existence of chakra on the bodies of these people. 1, 2, 3. A total of 6 people, and they are all ninjas. Who are these people? Dong Shenyao frowned slightly. Although it is impossible to guess the identities of these people, it is not important. The important thing is that Dong Shenyao also found a small figure. It is Tsunade. However, Tsunade was not having a good time at this time. He was tied up with ropes, and even his mouth was blocked, so he couldn't make a sound at all. Although Dong Shenyao had already seen that the strongest of these people was only Chunin, and even most of them were only Genin's strength, which could easily be solved with Dong Shenyao's current strength, he still held back and did not do anything. Because Tsunade is still in their hands now, it will be difficult to do if they accidentally hurt Tsunade. Looks like we'll have to wait until evening. Thinking of this, Dong Shenyao became familiar with the nearby terrain. Dong Shenyao found that the ninja who kidnapped Tsunade were resting in a cave. At this time, 2 people were guarding Tsunade, and the other 4 were chatting together. Time passed little by little, and soon night fell. Perhaps the kidnappers were tired, and after 2 people were left for vigil, the others began to rest. Maybe it was because he was confident that Tsunade couldn't run, so the guards on Tsunade were not as tight as before. Dong Shenyao knew that the opportunity had come. Dong Shenyao's body directly entered the ground, and then approached the cave. Soon Dong Shenyao had come under Tsunade. Tsunade didn't fall asleep at this time, but looked around with her eyes open. From her rolling eyes, she could see that she was thinking about how to escape at this time. Suddenly Tsunade only felt empty, and the whole body suddenly fell down. Tsunade was shocked by the sudden change. If it wasn't for her mouth being blocked at this time, she might have screamed. It didn't take long for her to fall, and before she could even react, she suddenly felt that she had fallen into a very warm embrace. Huh? Tsunade looked up suspiciously, and with the help of the dim firelight in the cave, Tsunade found a handsome man looking at her and smiling. So handsome. Tsunade was stunned for a while. Little Tsunade, we meet again. Dong Shenyao greeted. It's him. Tsunade also woke up at this time, and immediately recognized Dong Shenyao. But it also made Tsunade feel like Yuhi. She didn't expect that she was fascinated by Dong Shenyao just now. I didn't expect this villain to be quite handsome. Such a thought suddenly appeared in Tsunade's mind. Dong Shenyao didn't know Tsunade's thoughts at this time. He just saw that her face changed a little, and Dong Shenyao didn't care about it. Tsunade, let's go first. Said, Dong Shenyao first blocked the hole above, and then took Tsunade to shuttle through the soil. With the earth in existence, the earth could not block Dong Shenyao's sight, but Tsunade couldn't. At this time, she only felt that the surroundings were completely dark, which made Tsunade a little scared, and unconsciously moved her body to Dong Shenyao's chest. She leaned forward. Depend on. Chapter 131 Angry Tsunade. Sensing Tsunade's movements, Dong Shenyao reached out and touched her hair and said, Don't be afraid, little Tsunade, we'll go up in a while. Bastard, can't you take the contents out of my mouth first? Tsunade thought viciously. Because he was carrying Tsunade, Dong Shenyao's speed was not fast. It took him 5 minutes to get away from the cave, and then he came out of the ground. The air outside is still good, Dong Shenyao said with a long sigh. Then Dong Shenyao lowered his head to look at Tsunade. I saw Tsunade staring at Dong Shenyao at this moment, his eyes full of anger. Don't be angry, I'll untie the rope for you. Said, Dong Shenyao first took out the stuff stuck in his mouth for Tsunade, then took out a kunai, swish a few times, the rope on Tsunade's body it was directly cut off by Dong Shenyao. You bastard. After regaining his freedom, Tsunade immediately jumped on Dong Shenyao and started punching and kicking. Hey, little Tsunade, you can't be so ungrateful, I just rescued you, is that how you treat your savior? Dong Shenyao said while dodging Tsunade's attack. I'll spare you this time. Tsunade was also a little embarrassed when he heard Dong Shenyao's words, and stopped immediately, but he didn't mean to apologize at all. Little Tsunade didn't expect you to be so Tsunade. Dong Shenyao teased. Hearing this, Tsunade gave Dong Shenyao a direct look. By the way, Tsunade, who are the people in the cave, why did they arrest you? Dong Shenyao changed the subject. Tsunade's expression also became serious at this time. Dong Shenyao, you must kill all those bad guys. Tsunade said, biting Kiba and gnashing his teeth. What a strong killing intent. Seeing the anger in Tsunade's eyes, Dong Shenyao was a little surprised. Although Tsunade was more violent before, he was still a child after all, and it can only be said that he had some princess temper. But at this time, Dong Shenyao actually sensed the killing intent on Tsunade, which made Dong Shenyao puzzled and wondered what those ninjas did to Tsunade, which made Tsunade so angry. Tsunade, who are those people? Dong Shenyao asked. They are a group of wandering ninjas, but unlike ordinary wandering ninjas, they mainly travel between the country of fire and the country of Sichuan, and are responsible for capturing young girls for the rich people of the country of Sichuan for their enjoyment. Speaking of this, Tsunade said once again Unstoppable exudes a strong killing intent. But at this time, Dong Shenyao understood why Tsunade was so angry, because at this time he was also very angry after learning about these things. It's really hateful, these people should be killed. Deep cold murderous aura emanated, and at this moment Dong Shenyao's eyes looked a little terrifying. Tsunade, Wait here first, I'll kill all those bastards. After speaking, Dong Shenyao first separated out a shadow clone to protect Tsunade, and then walked towards the cave. After passing through dozens of meters of woods, Dong Shenyao came to the cave. He has observed it before, and now 4 of these wandering ninjas are asleep, and the remaining 2 are vigil near the entrance of the cave. Dodan, Earth Style, Shenglongba. Under the control of Dong Shenyao, a soil dragon rushed out of the ground and then rushed straight to the cave. The sound outside alarmed the 2 night vigil ninjas, but just as the 2 of them came to the entrance of the cave, they saw a soil dragon rushing over. The 2 of them didn't react in a hurry at all, and they were directly hit by the earth dragon. Boom! Tulong led the 2 of them directly into the cave, the explosion sounded, and smoke and dust came out from the cave. Ah! There was a scream, and someone was obviously injured. However, Dong Shenyao's attack did not stop at this time. I saw that Dong Shenyao had already walked to the front of the cave at this time, and reached out and pressed it on the cave. Broken. As Dong Shenyao let out a soft sigh, the entire cave began to crack. Boom. With the collapse of the cave, the entire hill shook violently, and a large number of stones fell from the mountain. At this time, the entrance to the cave had already been blocked, and the people inside could not escape at all. Don't say that there are only some genin and chunin in the cave at this time, even Jonin has only one dead end. Since Dong Shenyao was very close to the cave, some rocks would fall on him from time to time. However, at this time Dong Shenyao had already used elementalization, so he was not afraid that these stones would hurt him. After more than 10 minutes, everything calmed down. I saw that the hill that was more than 30 meters high dropped directly by 5 or 6 meters, and the surrounding area was full of gravel and broken trees. Ta Shenyao used Byakugan to take a look, and after confirming that there was no one alive, he turned and left. It was only after Dong Shenyao walked a few steps that he realized that Tsunade had already come over, staring blankly at the ruins in front of him. Dong Shenyao's shadow clone stood aside, his eyes full of helplessness. Okay little Tsunade, the matter has been resolved, we should go back. Dong Shenyao said after walking over. Wow, Tsunade suddenly exclaimed, then looked at Dong Shenyao with burning eyes and said, East Shenyao, you are amazing, teach me. Little Tsunade, your second grandfather is Hokage, his strength is countless times stronger than mine, why don't you let him teach him? Dong Shenyao questioned. Cut, second grandpa is so busy every day that he has no time to teach me. Tsunade pouted. Dong Shenyao didn't know what to say, after all, Senju Tobarama was so busy for the whole village. Okay, then you can find me as long as I don't have a mission. Dong Shenyao did not refuse. After all, Tsunade will not only be a beautiful woman in the future, but also very strong. Yeah, Tsunade directly cheered. Ha ha ha, I can learn from this bastard. At that time, I must learn everything from him and surpass him. Then I will see how this bastard bullies me. Tsunade thought expectantly. Dong Shenyao didn't know what Tsunade was thinking. If he knew, he would probably ridicule Tsunade with disdain, because there are some abilities that Tsunade would never learn in his life. It was already late at night, and the 2 were in the forest, and the tall trees blocked the moonlight and starlight. This was nothing to Dong Shenyao. The 2 pupils could still see the road clearly, but Tsunade couldn't, and he tripped after walking a few steps. Tsunade, let me hold you. Saying that, Dong Shenyao didn't care whether Tsunade agreed or not. He hugged her directly, and then quickened his pace. Put me down, you bastard. Tsunade hurriedly struggled. Okay, don't be embarrassed, it's important to hurry now. Dong Shenyao patted Tsunade's butt and said. You, how dare you hit my ass? Tsunade glared at Dong Shenyao angrily. Aha, sorry about that. Dong Shenyao was also a little embarrassed. East Shenyao, I'm not finished with you. Tsunade said angrily. Although he threatened Dong Shenyao, Tsunade did not continue to struggle. Dong Shenyao was planning to rush back to Konoha overnight, but he didn't expect that in less than half an hour, countless raindrops fell, and it started to rain, and it was not too small. Helpless, Dong Shenyao had to stop. Down. Chapter 132 Kindness in the Rain. Due to the rain, Dong Shenyao had to stop. Seeing that there was no shelter from the rain around, Dong Shenyao directly used the ability of the soil fruit to build a soil house to shelter from the rain. After entering the room, Dong Shenyao put Tsunade down. Tsunade, it looks like we'll have to stay here for the night today. To actually spend the night with you bastard, I really have no eyes. Tsunade said with some dissatisfaction after glancing at Dong Shenyao. Little Tsunade, don't you think it's romantic to see us two alone in the same room? Dong Shenyao teased. Romantic shit, Tsunade growled directly. Little Tsunade, you are a woman, don't always swear, be gentle. Dong Shenyao advised. My mother's gentleness is only for future men, you are not my future man, why should I be gentle with you? Tsunade said disdainfully. Little Tsunade, it's hard to say, maybe I'll become your man in the future. Dong Shenyao said ambiguous. Impossible, the old lady is blind to see you. Tsunade Yuhi said with a face. After speaking, Tsunade only felt his heart beat faster. HMPH, I'm not talking to you, I'm going to bed. With that, Tsunade sat directly against the wall, closed his eyes and started to sleep. Hey, a child now, he knows how to find a man at such a young age. Dong Shenyao shook his head and said, I have to say that the children in the Hokage world are precocious, and they know the love between men and women when they are a few years old. Little Tsunade, do you want something to eat? Dong Shenyao asked. Don't eat, Tsunade replied directly with his eyes closed. Seeing Tsunade seemed to be really going to sleep, Dong Shenyao didn't say anything, just sat next to Tsunade and listened to the sound of rain outside the earthen house quietly. The rain was getting heavier and heavier, and the sound of clattering was incessant, and finally it turned into a torrential rain. Hearing the sound of the rain, Dong Shenyao felt sleepy and gradually fell asleep. I don't know how long ago, when Dong Shenyao woke up, he found a very soft object in his arms. What? After all, Dong Shenyao had just woken up, and his mind was still a little fuzzy. He stretched out his hand and pinched it in a daze, and found that it felt good. But at this moment, Dong Shenyao noticed that something in his arms moved. Alive. This time, Dong Shenyao was completely awakened. Opening his eyes, the first thing Dong Shenyao saw was a yellowish color. After a closer look, Dong Shenyao realized that the yellowish color in front of him turned out to be hair. Isn't this Tsunade? Dong Shenyao took a closer look and found that Tsunade was curled up in his arms at some point, and at this time his hand was still on Tsunade's butt, obviously he had just squeezed it, Tsunade's ass. This discovery made Yuhi on Dong Shenyao's cheek. He didn't think that he would take advantage of Tsunade without knowing it. But why did Tsunade run into my arms? Dong Shenyao was very puzzled. Dong Shenyao soon realized that something was wrong, because he felt that Tsunade's body temperature was very high at this time, but his cheeks were red. Dong Shenyao reached out and touched it. It's so hot. Tsunade doesn't have a fever, right? Thinking of this, Ta Shenyao was anxious for a while. How are you, Tsunade? Dong Shenyao quickly patted Tsunade's body. Ta Shenyao's surprise, Tsunade didn't wake up, he just murmured. Water, I want water. Tsunade's voice was not loud, but Ta Shenya could still hear it clearly. Okay, Tsunade, wait a minute, the water is coming. Dong Shenyao knew that Tsunade really had a fever, and it was serious. This made Ta Shenyao know that the reason why Tsunade ran into his arms should be too cold, so he came to keep warm. Not daring to neglect, Dong Shenyao quickly took off the water bag from his body and fed Tsunade with water. Feeding Tsunade and drinking water, Dong Shenyao was not idle, he directly summoned the exchange panel and started looking for medicine to treat colds. Not disappointing Dong Shenyao, he soon found a medicine that could quickly reduce fever in the exchange system, and it was not expensive, only 5 magic points. Without hesitation, Dong Shenyao directly exchanged it, and then took it to Tsunade for the first time. Not long after Tsunade took the medicine, the Yuhi run on her face disappeared a lot, and Dong Shenyao noticed that her body temperature had also dropped. Seeing this, Dong Shenyao let out a long sigh of relief. He was really afraid of something going wrong with Tsunade, not because Senju Tobarama would blame him, but because he didn't want to look like the big cow in the future died. Although Tsunade had already been given medicine, Dong Shenyao decided to return to the village as soon as possible in order to avoid accidents. After leaving the earth house, Dong Shenyao realized that the sky was bright and the rainstorm had stopped. After dispersing the earthen house, Dong Shenyao hurried towards the village with Tsunade in his arms. Unknown amount of time, Tsunade slowly woke up. She felt that she was being held, and the embrace was very warm, which made her nostalgic. His eyes, Tsunade found himself being embraced by Tashinyao. Yeah, how could this be? Tsunade was shy and hurriedly closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep. After a while, she realized that she seemed to be too cold last night, so she ran into Dong Shenyao's arms in a daze to keep warm. The warm feeling made Tsunade feel as if she was back in her mother's arms. Although Tsunade's fever has subsided after taking the special medicine, it does not mean that Tsunade's cold has been cured. Tsunade hadn't eaten for a day and was very weak, so it didn't take long before Tsunade fell asleep again. Under Tashinyao's full speed, he returned to Konoha village in just 3 hours. It's just that Dong Shenyao didn't know that the village was already fried at this time. Earlier, Dong Shenyao and Kimura Fumino had agreed that if Tsunade was not found before dark, they would return to the place to gather. Last night, Kimura Wenye and the two had already returned to their original places. After waiting for a long time, the 1.4 Shandong Shenyao was not released. In the end, it rained heavily, which forced them to return to the village. Didn't come back. The two thought he had found Tsunade, but they didn't come back in time because of the rain, so they went home after reporting the incident to Senju Tobarama. But it was almost noon at this time, and the two of them were still missing, which made Senju Tobarama anxious. They won't be in any danger. Thinking of this, Senju Tobarama couldn't sit still, and hurriedly sent Anbu to look for the two of them. It was just that Anbu had just set off when Dong Shenyao took Tsunade back to the village. At this time Tsunade was still being held in his arms by Dong Shenyao, and he was stopped by Anbu as soon as he returned to the village. Tashinyao, you're finally back. Hokage-sama is in a hurry. Chapter 133 Senju Tobarama's Invitation. When Tashinyao followed Anbu to see Senju Tobarama, he found that Senju Tobarama had a rare look of anxiety on his face. He didn't breathe a sigh of relief until he saw Tsunade being held in Dong Shenyao's arms. Yao is really bothering you. Grandpa Hokage, you are too polite. You are my grandfather. Tsunade is my sister. Of course I have to look for her if she gets lost. Dong Shenyao said with a smile. Yao, what happened to Tsunade? Senju Tobarama had already discovered the problem at this time. After all, how could ordinary people still be sleeping at this time? Grandpa Hokage, Tsunade she has a cold. How is it? Is it serious? Senju Tobarama asked with concern. I gave Tsunade some water to drink. Now Tsunade's fever has subsided, but the body is still very weak and needs to be well recuperated. Dong Shenyao concealed the matter of the antipyretic. After all, how can ordinary people carry antipyretics with them? It's fine. Senju Tobarama let out a long sigh of relief. Hokage Grandpa Tsunade will be handed over to you. Said, Dong Shenyao handed the sleeping Tsunade to Senju Tobarama. Taking Tsunade, Senju Tobarama checked it carefully, and found that it was indeed as Tashinyao said. Tsunade was just a little weak, and there was nothing else. By the way, Yao, why did you guys come back so late? Seeing Tsunade was fine, Senju Tobarama only had time to ask Dong Shenyao's passing. Dong Shenyao didn't hide it either, and directly told Tsunade that Tsunade was caught by the wandering ninja. Bang! It's abominable. Senju Tobarama punched the table directly, looking very angry. The thought that Tsunade would probably have become the plaything of the rich had it not been for Dong Shenyao to save Tsunade in time, which made Senju Tobarama terrified for a while. What does Anbu eat? let the wandering ninja approach Konoha village. Senju Tobarama blew his anger on Anbu directly. Dong Shenyao held a moment of silence in his heart for Anbu at this time. Obviously Anbu was going to be unlucky this time. After losing his temper, Senju Tobarama looked at Dong Shenyao again and said, "Okay Yao, you are tired too, now go back and have a good rest." "Well, Grandpa Hokage, then I'm leaving." After speaking, Dong Shenyao left the Hokage office directly. Just as he was leaving, he found that the B-level mission to find and bring back Tsunade had been completed. 500 God creation points are credited, not bad. Was not in a hurry to go home. He had heard that Kudo-shun and the two were worried about his safety before, so after leaving the Hokage building, he went to Kudo-shun and reported their safety to them, and finally go home. After a night's rest, Dong Shenyao was not tired, so he immediately started to practice. In the blink of an eye, 3 days have passed, and Dong Shenyao has been cultivating these days without taking any more tasks. Dong Shenyao had just had lunch at noon that day when an Anbu suddenly found him. "East Shenyao is given to you by Lord Hokage." With that said, the Anbu handed a letter to East Shenyao, and then left regardless of East Shenyao's reaction. Cut, these Anbu are really rude. Although he didn't have much contact with Anbu, Dong Shenyao didn't have much of a cold for Anbu. He wore a mask and pretended to be mysterious all day, and he didn't like to talk. He looked cold. Back in the room, Dong Shenyao opened the letter and read it. He was a little curious and didn't know what letter Senju Tobarama would give him. When Dong Shenyao read the contents of the letter, he couldn't help but be taken aback. This is not so much a letter as it is an invitation. Senju Tobarama actually invited him to dinner at home this evening, saying that it was to thank Dong Shenyao for saving Tsunade. "It's better to go for a while. I don't know if Tsunade is healed." At this moment, Dong Shenyao suddenly thought of Tsunade's haggard face because of his illness. Seeing that it was still too early for the time on the invitation letter, Dong Shenyao set the alarm clock and started his practice in the afternoon. In the blink of an eye, there was still an hour before the agreed time, and Dong Shenyao stopped cultivating. After taking a good shower, Dong Shenyao put on clean clothes and walked towards Senju Tobarama's house. At this time, the sky was getting dark, and ordinary people had already started to eat or even finished eating at this time, but Senju Tobarama, as a Hokage, was very busy every day, and I am afraid that he had just arrived home at this time. Senju Tobarama didn't live with Senju Hashirama. After all, Senju Hashirama was married, so it would be inconvenient for the two to live together. And Senju Tobarama's mansion is next door to Senju Hashirama's mansion, so that the two are separated and can see each other often. Outside Senju Tobarama's mansion, before he could knock on the door, an Anbu suddenly jumped out from the side. "I said, brother Anbu, can you guys stop being so elusive all the time? It's scary." Dong Shenyao patted his chest and said with a frightened look. Although Anbu is wearing a mask, Dong Shenyao has already opened Byakugan at this time, so he can clearly see a very young face under the mask. He looks like he is only about 20 years old, but at this time this face is with a helpless expression. "Come with me." After a moment of silence, Anbu spoke. Then he didn't care about Tashinyao's reaction. He pushed open the gate of Senju Tobarama's mansion and walked into the mansion. "Hey, wait for me." After shouting, Dong Shenyao hurriedly followed. Under the guidance of Anbu, Dong Shenyao soon came to a courtyard. "Master Hokage is inside, you can go in 837 yourself." After saying that, Anbu walked away. "Really, what kind of mystery are you pretending to be?" With a contemptuous glance at the big tree on the side, Dong Shenyao walked towards the courtyard. "Has he found me?" Anbu, who had just led the way for Dong Shenyao, hid in the big tree. He also saw Dong Shenyao's gaze just now, but he couldn't be sure whether it was unintentional or Dong Shenyao. Shenyao really found himself. What a funny kid. After entering the yard, Dong Shenyao saw a row of rooms in front of the yard, and at this time, the door of one of the rooms was wide open, and Senju Tobarama was sitting in the room and beckoning to Dong Shenyao. Seeing this, Dong Shenyao walked over quickly. Grandpa Hokage. Ha 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 Yao, you're here, come in. Senju Tobarama said enthusiastically. Seeing this, Dong Shenyao hurriedly took off his shoes and walked to Senju Tobarama to sit down, and at the same time looked around. At this time, there were 3 other people in the room besides Senju Tobarama. 2 of them were a young man and a woman. The 2 were about 24 or 5 years old. The one sitting between them was Tsunade. This should be Tsunade's parents. Dong Shenyao thought to himself. At the same time he was a little curious about the 2, because the original book did not say who Tsunade's parents were. Chapter 134 Passionate Senju Family. Original book, Tsunade and Naoki's parents are very mysterious and never appeared, and Tsunade did not mention his parents. Even in the original book, the surnames of the Tsunade siblings could not be determined, but after coming to this world, Dong Shenyao knew that Tsunade was indeed the surname Senju, the granddaughter of Senju Hashirama. As for Senju Tobarama, he never married, so there is no descendant. Senju Tsunade's father is the son of Senju Hashirama, the god of the ninja world, and his talent cannot be bad, but it did not appear in the original book, which made Dong Shenyao very puzzled. Of curiosity. After seeing Dong Shenyao looking at the young men and women, Senju Tobarama couldn't help but smile slightly, pointed at Yuhifa Youth and said, Yao, these are Tsunade's parents, he is my elder brother's son Senju Yaya. Qian, Senju Yaya. Dong Shenyao was speechless, the name was too childish, Dong Shenyao didn't know who gave it to him. Seeing the strange look on Dong Shenyao's face, Senju Yaya smiled helplessly and said, East Gadyao, if you want to laugh, just laugh. I'm used to it, but I can't help it. My name was given by my father. Ha ha ha. Hearing that, Dong Shenyao couldn't hold it any longer, and he laughed outright. He didn't expect Senju Hashirama to give his son such a childish name. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. After laughing for a while, Dong Shenyao stopped. It's alright, I actually laughed at Yi Ya's name. Senju Tobarama laughed. He couldn't do anything about his eldest brother, so he even gave his son such a name. Although my father's name is a bit naive, I know that this name represents my father's expectations for me. My father said that Yaya symbolizes the new sprout of Konoha. I am the new hope of Konoha. In the future, I will definitely inherit my father's will to become Hokage. I saw Senju Yiya clenched his fist and said expectantly. It's so bloody. Looking at Senju Yiya, Dong Shenyao seemed to see Naruto in the future, fighting hard for the position of Hokage. Yiya, I support you, you will definitely succeed. At this time, the yellow-haired woman sitting on the other side of Tsunade looked at Senju Yiya with love. Seeing her parents like this, Tsunade directly covered her face with her hands. She felt ashamed that she had such parents, especially since Dong Shenyao was still here. Thinking of this, Tsunade couldn't help but look at Dong Shenyao through his fingers, and this look made Tsunade even more ashamed, and he even wanted to find a place to turn in. At this time, Dong Shenyao looked at Senju Yaya and his wife in astonishment. At this time, he realized that what he said was very good. It's not that the family does not enter the house. Senju Yaya and his wife are really a good match. You don't mind that Yao, Yiya and the others have this kind of character. Senju Tobarama also felt a little humiliated, but he had to explain. It's okay, I think Uncle Yiya is so good. Only by becoming Hokage with such a character can our village become more prosperous and strong. Of course, Dong Shenyao had to say good things in front of others. Sure enough, what Ta Shenyao said not only made Senju Yaya and his wife happy, but also made Senju Tobarama very satisfied, and only Tsunade felt a little speechless. Hello Dong Shenyao, my name is Chunko, I'm the mother of Yiya's wife Tsunade, please give me some advice. The woman with yellow hair took the initiative to introduce herself. Hello Aunt Chunzi. Dong Shenyao stood up very solemnly and gave a salute. Dong Shenyao, you are too polite, sit down. Chunzi said very enthusiastically, and at the same time, his gaze towards Dong Shenyao became softer. After the introduction, Several people also knew each other at this time, and the servant also brought the food up at this time. After being greeted by Senju Tobarama, dinner began. A few people chatted while eating. Dong Shenyao found that Tsunade's parents were really good-natured and very easygoing, and Haruko was very gentle. At first glance, she looked like the kind of woman who was very suitable for a husband and a child, and Senju Yeya's character was the kind of informal person, so he quickly became involved with Dong Shenyao. Seeing that Ta Shenyao was having a good conversation with his parents, Tsunade let out a long sigh of relief for some reason. "Yo, thank you so much this time, otherwise Tsunade would be in danger," Haruko said gratefully. Due to their closeness to each other, Haruko directly omitted Dong Shenyao's surname. "This is what I should, but in the future, please also ask my aunt to be optimistic about Tsunade, and don't let this happen again." "Well, I will be optimistic about Tsunade in the future," Haruko said very seriously. "I don't need it," Tsunade shouted directly at this moment. "Don't make trouble with Tsunade, it's not like you don't know how dangerous this time is." The gentle Haruko was really angry this time, and she straightened her face. Facing the angry mother, Tsunade was also a little scared, lowered his head and whispered, "Isn't there nothing wrong? You're still quibbling. If Yao hadn't found you this time, have you thought about the consequences?" Haruko reprimanded. "Okay, Aunt Haruko, I think Tsunade has already remembered it and won't do it again in the future." Seeing that Yuhi was about to cry around Tsunade's eyes, Dong Shenyao quickly excused Tsunade. "Forget it, I won't talk about you because of Yao's face." Chunzi didn't say anything. After all, she is a mother, so how can she really teach her children a lesson? And now there is Dong Shenyao to give her a step up. Chunzi quickly took the opportunity to calm down. The meal was over for 2 hours, and through the conversation, Chunzi found that although Dong Shenyao was young, she was very mature, which made her more and more optimistic about Dong Shenyao, and her eyes were like looking at her son-in-law. In general, it's a little embarrassing to only see Dong Shenyao. And Senju Yeya is pulling Dong Shenyao to talk about some ninjutsu things, but Senju Tobarama talks less. "Yao, we're all busy, and we don't have time to take care of Tsunade. In the future, you have time to teach her more so that she won't get into trouble if she has nothing to do." "Don't worry, Aunt Haruko, if I have time, I will teach Tsunade well." Dong Shenyao did not refuse. Anyway, he had already promised to guide Tsunade to practice. Seeing that it was getting late, Dong Shenyao said goodbye and left. The Senju family is really warm. After leaving Senju Tobarama's mansion, Ta Shenyao let out a long sigh of relief. What scares Dong Shenyao the most is Chunzi. It's not that Chunzi is scary, but she is too enthusiastic. Just like a mother-in-law to a son-in-law, she keeps giving Dong Shenyao food and asks all aspects of Dong Shenyao. For example, what kind of woman do you like, etc. Because it was very late, Dong Shenyao went home to wash up and then went straight to rest. Chapter 135 Guide Tsunade. The next morning, before Dong Shenyao woke up, he was awakened by a knock on the door. "Who? It's so annoying, coming so early," Dong Shenyao shouted in dissatisfaction, but the knock on the door didn't stop at all. Instead it got louder and louder. He could only reluctantly walk from Chuang climbed up. Wearing pajamas directly, Dong Shenyao went over and opened the door. "Who is it?" After opening the door, Dong Shenyao yawned and looked around, but saw no one. Could it be that someone is playing a prank? Such a thought suddenly popped into Dong Shenyao's heart. "East Shinya." Suddenly, a childish voice sounded. "Huh." At this time, Dong Shenyao realized that the sound was coming from below. He looked down and saw Tsunade standing outside the door. It was only because Tsunade was short that Dong Shenyao didn't notice it just now. "Tsunade, is there so early for you to ask me for something?" Dong Shenyao asked with a displeased face. "East Shenyao said before that you wanted to teach me to practice, have you forgotten?" Tsunade pouted. "Really, a girl came looking for you, aren't you high?" Tsunade thought dissatisfiedly. "Tsunade, are you here for this?" Dong Shenyao was very helpless. Yes. Tsunade nodded hastily. It can't be so early, what time is it? Dong Shenyao looked at the sky and said. You big slacker, it's almost 6 o'clock now and you're still sleeping. I really don't know how you got your strength. Tsunade said with great disdain. Despised by a little lowly, and Dong Shenyao was speechless. He usually wakes up at 7 or 8 o'clock. Forget it, come in first. Dong Shenyao wisely did not continue to entangle with Tsunade, and directly opened the door. Tsunade was not polite, and stepped into Tashinyao's house. Ting is clean. I didn't expect a man's house to be so clean. I heard from my mother that boys are lazy, and the house is like a pigsty. Tsunade said with some surprise. Of Tsunade's words, cleaning was really troublesome, so Dong Shenyao was handed over to Shadow Clone to do it. Tsunade, you sit first, I'll change your clothes. After speaking, Dong Shenyao went directly into the bedroom. But after a few minutes, Dong Shenyao had already dressed and walked out. Then he ignored Tsunade, and after taking a shower, he walked out of the room. Where are you going, Dong Shenyao? Tsunade asked curiously. Of course it's breakfast, you wait for me at home first. While speaking, Dong Shenyao had already opened the door and walked out. Wait for me, I haven't had breakfast either. Tsunade trotted out after saying that. You didn't eat either. Dong Shenyao's eyes widened. I said Tsunade, what are you doing here so early since you haven't had breakfast yet? Aren't people in a hurry? Tsunade felt a little embarrassed. Forget it, then come with me. Said, Dong Shenyao took Tsunade's hand very naturally and walked towards the breakfast shop. Feeling the warmth of Tashinyao's palm, Tsunade's cheeks were slightly yui. Is this a date? Tsunade thought of what his mother said last night. Little Tsunade, I think that Dong Shenyao is very good. Not only is he talented, but he is also mature and handsome. You must catch such a good man. Mother, what are you saying? People ignore you. With a snarl, Tsunade hurriedly ran away. Ha ha ha, little Tsunade is shy. Haruko teased behind Tsunade. Yes, Tsunade is indeed shy. Tsunade was curious about Tashinyao because of Chunan's selection before, and after being easily defeated by Tashinyao, Tsunade hated Tashinyao once. However, when she was most desperate, she was rescued by Tashinyao, which made Tsunade's feelings for Tashinyao reversed, from hatred to love. It's just that Tsunade is still young, so it's impossible to talk about love, but it also makes the figure of Dong Shenyao deeply imprinted in Tsunade's heart, like a seed buried in Tsunade's heart, waiting to grow and sprout. But the mother's words were like a key, which opened the seed and made it begin to sprout. East Shenyao is also good, strong and handsome. Although he is a bit domineering and beats other people's ass, he also has a gentle side. He takes care of others when they are sick, and it is not bad if they are with him. Well, Tsunade suddenly had such a thought in his mind. Yeah, what am I thinking? Tsunade was suddenly shy, and quickly suppressed the previous thoughts. She stopped thinking about it in her heart, but even so, this thought continued to affect Tsunade, making the seed in her heart continue to grow. Growing up. Breakfast with Tsunade, Dong Shenyao didn't go home either, but walked straight to the training ground with her. Tsunade, don't you have to go to school? Dong Shenyao asked with concern while walking on the road. People don't go to school, everyone knows everything taught in school, it's useless. Tsunade said with some pride. That's right, for geniuses, things in the school can be learned very quickly. Dong Shenyao nodded in agreement. He also went to ninja school. Of course, he knows that ninja school teaches very basic things. If you have good talent and study hard, you can learn it in a year, and you have to practice on your own for the rest. Soon Tashinyao brought Tsunade to a training ground where he often came. It is relatively remote, so there are very few people here, and it is morning, so the entire training ground was empty when the two arrived here. All the way, Dong Shenyao was thinking about what to teach Tsunade, and when he walked to the training ground, he already had the answer. The original book, Tsunade majored in taijutsu and medical ninjutsu, and carried forward chakra-enhanced strength in taijutsu. In medical ninjutsu, he is the #1 in the ninja world in the future, so now Tashinya decided to teach Tsunade taijutsu. As for medical ninjutsu, Tashinya himself doesn't know how to teach it. Tsunade, you Senju clan are born with strong physique and are not inferior to the taijutsu ninjas of the Hyuga clan. Now I will start teaching you taijutsu. After speaking, Dong Shenyao began to seriously explain to Tsunade some of the taijutsu he had summarized. Experience of Dong Shenyao is now considered a master of physique. Combining Yijinjing, the 8 inner gates and even the physique of the Hyuga clan, Dong Shenyao has created a set of methods for cultivating physique. At this time, Dong Shenyao he didn't hide it, he directly explained his cultivation method. Chapter 136 Son of Daimyo. Soon Dong Shenyao explained his method of cultivating physique. How is it, do you understand? Dong Shenyao asked. No, Tsunade shook his head in confusion. Dong Shenyao was not disappointed by this, because it was what he expected. After all, although Tsunade was Hokage's granddaughter, he was still young and didn't have much contact with, at most, some basic things, but those things that are said are very advanced things that even a Jonin can't fully understand. It doesn't matter if you don't understand, you remember what I said now, and I will explain it to you a little bit later. Well, I see, Tsunade nodded obediently. The foundation of taijutsu is the body, so ordinary people practice taijutsu by constantly exercising their bodies by brute force, enhancing their physical fitness, making themselves faster, stronger, and stronger in fighting ability. But doing so will have a great effect. Often with less effort. The so-called physical training method is to do some special movements or use unique methods to exercise the body, so that the same amount of energy can be used to make the body get better exercise. There should be some physical training methods in the school, but they are the most basic, and the effect is not much stronger than brute force training, but I think your Senju family should have better physical training methods. But now what I'm going to teach you is my self-created physique cultivation method. It can be said without hesitation that even in the whole of Konoha, my method is the best. Can also become a quasi-cage level powerhouse. Speaking of this, Dong Shenyao looked a little proud. It's not that Dongshin is arrogant, but the fact. The Senju clan's taijutsu cultivation method, Dong Shenyao, had seen it in the Book of Seals. He didn't think it was better than the method he created, or even worse. After all, the taijutsu training method created by Dong Shenyao combines many advanced taijutsu training methods, especially with reference to the advanced martial arts of Yijinjing, which makes this set of taijutsu training methods created by Dong Shenyao become the top of the ninja world, and complement each other with Yijinjing. The main function of Yijinjing is to improve the physique of practitioners, enhance their potential, improve their cultivation talents, and finally achieve the effect of Yijin and wash marrow. If potential is the bottle, strength is the water in the bottle. The bigger the bottle, the more water it can hold. The biggest function of Yijinjing is to expand the bottle, and Dong Shenyao's self-created method of physique cultivation is to fill the bottle with water faster, and the two complement each other. However, this set of physique cultivation methods, Dong Shenyao, have only just been created, and they have not been completely perfected. But even so, before reaching Jonin, this training method is Konoha's best. Dong Shenyao first explained the cultivation method in detail, and after getting Tsunade to memorize it, he guided her cultivation little by little. Spread your legs, raise your hands, move your weight forward, and breathe at my rhythm. When Tsunade followed the movements taught by Dong Shenyao, she felt that all the muscles in her body were trembling slightly, and it didn't take long for her to sweat. Tashinyao is so tired, can we stop? After 10 minutes, Tsunade couldn't hold on anymore. Come on Tsunade, you must persevere. Dong Shenyao cheered. Hearing Tashinyao's words, Tsunade could only bite Kiba and insist. 15 minutes later, Tsunade finally had no more strength, and was about to fall down. At this time, Dong Shenyao hurriedly stepped forward to support her. How is it? Dong Shenyao asked with concern. However, Tsunade didn't have the time to answer Tashinyao's words, and fell directly into his arms, gasping for breath. It took a few minutes for it to recover. I'm so tired, Tsunade complained. It's okay to be tired, that's how physique training is. You have to constantly break through the limits one by one, so that you can make your body stronger. Dong Shenyao explained. In fact, this set of moves by Dong Shenyao also includes the method of opening the 8 inner gates, so it is so difficult to practice. Tsunade, if you want to be strong then you must work hard. Tashinyao said solemnly. I must become a strong man, Dong Shenyao, watch it. Tsunade said firmly. After assigning a shadow clone to take care of Tsunade, Dong Shenyao himself began to practice, but this time it was Tsunade who watched. In a blink of an eye, a day passed, but Tsunade felt that the day passed so quickly, as if the blink of an eye passed. Tsunade was exhausted after a day of training, and was finally carried back home by Dong Shenyao. Yao, I'll find you again tomorrow. The two of them got a lot closer in one day. In this way, Dong Shenyao's teacher career began, and he would be woken up by Tsunade early every day, which made Dong Shenyao unable to sleep late. 4 days passed in a blink of an eye. On this day, Dong Shenyao practiced with Tsunade as usual, but after less than an hour of practice, an Anbu found here. Master Dong Shenyao Hokage is looking for you. Anbu left after saying that. Dong Shenyao was too lazy to complain about Anbu's behavior. Tsunade, you should practice on your own first, and I'll see what your second grandfather asked me to do. To Tsunade, Dong Shenyao went directly to Hokage's office. As soon as he came in, Dong Shenyao found that there were still a few people in the room. His 2 teammates Toshin Kudo and Fumino Kimura were there, and the remaining 3 were also acquaintances. I found so many people, it seems that I have an important task. Dong Shenyao thought to himself. After greeting the people in the room, Tashinyao quietly stood beside Kudo-shun. Senju Tobarama glanced at everyone and said, Okay, now that everyone is here, I will tell you about this mission. Not long ago, the son of the Fire Country Daimyo came to visit our Konoha, and today he is leaving, and yours the task is to escort His Highness back safely. It turned out to be an escort mission, and it was also an escort for the son of the daimyo. After hearing the details of the mission, Dong Shenyao frowned directly. What he hates most is this kind of protection quest, because he needs to protect people, so once he fights, he will be restricted everywhere, so if he receives the quest, he will never take the initiative to take it. But now it's Hokage's direct release, and he can't help but refuse. Forget it, I just hope that this journey will be safe. Dong Shenyao thought to himself. Please come in, Your Highness. Senju Tobarama suddenly called out of the room. Chapter 137 Old Acquaintance. As Senju Tobarama's voice fell, he saw the door of the office opened, and 2 men, one tall and one short, walked in. The short one looked like he was only in his teens, and he was obviously still a teenager. The other tall man is a middle-aged man in his 30s with a straight face. The most striking thing is that there is a scar near the left corner of his face. This scar makes the man it looks a bit ferocious, and at the same time wears a samurai sword around its waist. Hello, Mr. Hokage. The young man came to Senju Tobarama's desk and saluted. Hello, Your Highness. After returning the salute, Senju Tobarama nodded again at the middle-aged man. Now let me introduce to you, this is the eldest son of the Fire Country Daimyo, called Hasegawa Kazuhiko, you can call him His Highness. Senju Tobarama introduced. I have seen Your Highness. Dong Shenyao and several others saluted. After all, in terms of status, Kazuhiko Hasegawa is much higher than them. Hello. Hasegawa Kazuhiko replied amicably, not at all arrogant as the son of a daimyo, but had an approachable temperament. This act alone made Dong Shenyaoji feel good. Then Senju Tobarama introduced Kazuhiko Hasegawa and a few people from Tashinyao. His Royal Highness Kazuhiko, these 6 ninjas were arranged by me to protect you. I wonder if you are satisfied. Mr. Hokage, I won't talk about the 3 older ones, but are these 3 kids really up to the task this time? Before Hasegawa Kazuhiko could speak, the middle-aged man who had been silent since he came in the man spoke for the first time. While the middle-aged man was talking, he glanced at Dong Shenyao and the others with disdain. Obviously, he was referring to Dong Shenyao and them. Hey, what are you talking about? Don't look down on people. Kudo Shun was furious when he heard the words, and glared at the middle-aged man and retorted. Little devil, I'm just looking down on you. The middle-aged man did not apologize at all, but instead directly provoked. At this time, Senju Tobarama didn't stop and just sat there watching the excitement. Damn it. Kudo-jun couldn't stand such ridicule. He was about to take a step forward. Just at this moment, a cold light flashed in the middle-aged man's eyes, and the next moment, he had disappeared in place. So fast. Dong Shenyao's eyes flickered. Bang! He heard a collision sound, and then saw the figure of a middle-aged man appear behind Kudo-jun. At this time his fist was less than an inch away from Kudo-jun's neck. It's not that the middle-aged man finally stopped, but that his fist was stopped. At this time, the middle-aged man's wrist was caught by a fair and small hand, Master. Although this palm looked a little slender and didn't seem to have much strength, it firmly grasped the middle-aged man's wrist, making that he couldn't take a step forward. Good boy. Seeing that the punch he wanted to get was blocked, a hint of surprise flashed in the middle-aged man's eyes. At this time, Kudo-jun had also reacted. After turning around and seeing the situation behind him, Kudo-jun was afraid for a while. Yao, thank you. Kudo-jun looked at Dong Shenyao who was standing behind him. If it wasn't for Dong Shenyao blocking the middle-aged man's attack, Kudo-shun knew that he might have fallen to the ground at this time. Your name is Dong Shenyao, right? The middle-aged man said as he looked at the boy who blocked his attack. That's right. Dong Shenyao said calmly. He was not angry, because he had already seen that the middle-aged man's shot was just a test to them. The middle-aged man had already kept his hand on Kudo-jun, otherwise it might not have been his fist, but his waist. Katana sword. You bastard actually attacked me. Kudo-jun snarled at the middle-aged man. Sneak attack. The middle-aged man heard a trace of disdain at the corner of his mouth. Okay, Xiaojun. Kimura Fumino hurriedly scolded. Xiaojun, if there is a real fight, will the enemy tell you before they take action? Hearing Kimura Fumino's words, Kudo-shun couldn't help but turn Yuhi on his cheeks. In fact, he also knew that he had just been a little unreasonable, but he couldn't stand the arrogance of the middle-aged man. Okay, Zheng Yan, come back. Just when Dong Shenyao and the middle-aged man were in a stalemate, His Highness Kazuhiko spoke. It's your highness. Zheng Yan, a middle-aged man who didn't dare to neglect Kazuhiko's instructions, quickly withdrew his fist. And Dong Shenyao didn't stop it, but let go of his palm in cooperation. General Zheng Yan, I wonder if you are satisfied this time. Senju Tobarama looked at the middle-aged man with some pride and asked. Not bad. Of course, I'm just talking about this kid named Dong Shenyao. As for the guy named Kudo-jun, it's not too bad. Zheng Yan said unceremoniously. I know, so this time I specially dispatched 2 teams to cooperate with His Highness's escort team, which is enough to protect His Highness to return to the capital safely. Senju Tobarama said confidently. Mr. Hokage, it's getting late, it's time to leave, do you have anything else to do, sir? Kazuhiko Hasegawa looked at Senju Tobarama and said. No, I wish your highness a smooth journey. In this way, after everyone said goodbye to Senju Tobarama, they left the Hokage office one after another. Along the way, Hasegawa Kazuhiko and the middle-aged man Zheng Yan walked in the front, and Dong Shenyao and the others walked behind to catch up. Hello, Ueno-senpai, Aigawa-senpai, and Maeda-senpai, we meet again. Dong Shenyao greeted with a smile. Dong Shenyao did not expect that the people who performed the mission together this time were acquaintances. At this time, several people also greeted each other. Yao didn't expect you to become Chunin so quickly. I remember that you graduated from 2.0 less than a year ago. You are indeed a genius. Wano City praised. Yeah, I think it took us nearly 2 years to become Chunin. Compared with Yoichi, we are all mediocre. Maeda Ikki said with some envy. Senior Wano, don't talk about it. Besides, we're going to die of inferiority. Now that Yao and the next generation have become Chunin, we are still Genin. Kimura Fumino said a little depressed. You guys, don't compare yourself with Yo, he's not a human at all, and comparing him is simply looking for guilt. Maeda Ikki said jokingly. Hearing the words of several people, Dong Shenyao secretly laughed in his heart. I don't know what you would think if you knew that I was going to be promoted to Special Jonin. Dong Shenyao thought with some anticipation in his heart. Chapter 138 set off. Just as a few people were chatting, everyone had come to the outside of the Hokage building. As soon as they came out, Dong Shenyao and the others saw a carriage parked outside the Hokage building, and there were many guards around the carriage. I'll ask you all along the way. Hasegawa Kazuhiko looked at Dong Shenyao with a sincere expression. Don't worry, since we took over this task, we will try our best to complete it. Wano City said very seriously. Although Ta Shenyao is a genius and has extraordinary strength, but Wano Castle is Jonin, so Wano Castle is the real one. After a few polite words with Wano Castle, Hasegawa Kazuhiko sat on the carriage. Go! After Zhang Yan shouted, the carriage slowly drove up, and the guards followed closely. Yao, let's go too. Saying that, Yunojo followed with 2 of his teammates. Senior Wano, I don't know how to arrange this mission. Dong Shenyao asked as he walked beside Wano Castle. It's simple. The guards around this highness are not weak, so we don't need to guard them. Just let Toshikudo and Fumino Kimura stay close to protect them. We will be vigilant around and don't let people approach. Wano Castle made arrangements directly. Kudo-shun was very disappointed with the arrangement of Wano Castle. Although the task of protecting Kazuhiko at close range is very important, this task is also very safe, because there are Dong Shenyao and the others on the periphery, and Kazuhiko's guards are all around. The general situation there is no need for Kudo-shun to take action at all. Kimura Fumino and the 2 knew that Wano Castle was to protect them, and they were a little moved, but as ninjas, they couldn't do this. Senior Wano, let's also take part in the vigilance. Kimura Fumino volunteered. Okay, don't object. The 4 of us are enough. You should protect His Highness. Wano City said beyond doubt. Okay. Helpless, Kimura Fumino and the 2 could only accept it. At this time, the team had not left the village, so Dong Shenyao and the others were relatively relaxed. But half an hour later, the team had already left the village, and Wano City and others suddenly became vigilant. Although this area still belongs to the village of Konoha, there is already a possibility of danger. Ding! The system task is released. Escort Kazuhiko Hasegawa to the capital and destroy the enemy. The task level is A, and the reward is 1000 God-making points. Do you accept it? There is still a mission, of course I accept it. Dong Shenyao was delighted, but he did not expect the system to issue a mission at this time. After taking over the task, Dong Shenyao followed Wano City and the others to immediately start action. Wano Castle and Ikki Maeda are in front, Ta Shenyao and Daisho Aigawa, who has been silent, are in the back. The 4 of them are distributed in the 4 corners of the team, about 30 meters apart from the team, so that they can detect the enemy in advance and give the team a reaction time, and can also arrive in time for support when the team encounters an attack. Especially Dong Shenyao opened Byakugan, and everything within a radius of 600 meters was immediately seen. Before rescuing Tsunade, Ta Shinyao's Byakugan perspective range had reached nearly 600 meters, and after this period of practice, his Byakugan perspective range had officially reached 600 meters. And Dong Shenyao's Byakugan is the same as Hyuga main clan's. It is 360 degrees without dead ends, so having Byakugan Dong Shenyao means that he is very relaxed. At this time, Dong Shenyao found that it was wise to exchange the blood of the Hyuga clan, especially in such a guardian task. It was very easy. Although using Byakugan needs to consume chakra, but he is a perfect Hyuga bloodline, the amount of chakra consumed by Byakugan is very small, even less than that of the Hyuga family. Unlike the relaxed Tashinyao, the three of Wano City were more nervous. After all, they didn't have Byakugan, so it was impossible to know if there was an ambush ahead, so they had to be vigilant at all times. From Konoha village to the capital of the country of fire, if it is an ordinary ninja, it can take up to half a day to arrive, but Hasegawa Kazuhiko's team is much slower, and it will take at least 3 days at the current speed. Soon night fell, and there was no attack during the day, but the three of Wano Castle were tense all day, so although there was no battle, the three still felt a little tired. After Dong Shenyao and the others set up traps around them, they began to rest. The place to rest was chosen by Zheng Yan. The terrain here is flat, and there is a small stream less than 100 meters away. The water source is sufficient, which is very suitable for camping. After stopping, Zheng Yan greeted the guards to start setting up tents and bonfires. It's a lot easier to have these guards here. We only need to be responsible for protecting Kazuhiko's safety. At this time, Wano Castle was resting under a big tree. Yeah, after a while, there will be cooked food that can be eaten, which is much better than dry food. Maeda Ikki said with great anticipation. As expected, Ikki Maeda was not disappointed, and soon a guard went to the woods to hunt and roast some wild beasts. Eating barbecue, Dong Shenyao wondered if he could do the same when he went out to perform tasks in the future. After all, dry food was too unpalatable. After eating, Hasegawa Kazuhiko quickly rested, and after Zheng Yan and Wano City discussed the issue of the vigil, everyone began to rest. The task of the vigil was taken over by Kudo-jun and Kimura Fumino. In their words, they didn't help much during the day, and of course the simple task of vigil at night had to be handed over to them. Wano City did not refuse to do so. The night passed quickly, the night was very peaceful, and even the beasts did not encounter. 097 The sun rose, and after breakfast, the group hit the road again. Soon another day passed. At this time, it was only half a day away from the capital. If there were no accidents, they could arrive at the capital tomorrow afternoon. By then, Dong Shenyao and their mission would be completed. When night fell, the team stopped to set up camp again. At the same time, Zheng Yan arranged for several guards to hunt and prepare firewood. It didn't take long for the guards to return. Just like last night, a bonfire was set up, and then a special guard started to barbecue. Not enough time, Dong Shenyao walked to Wano Castle, and the two of them didn't know what to say. Then Dong Shenyao got up and walked towards Zheng Yan. Is something wrong? Zheng Yan asked Dong Shenyao who was approaching. It's nothing, I just came to see the barbecue. Yesterday's barbecue was delicious, so I'm going to go out after learning a lesson or do it myself. Dong Shenyao said with a smile. No problem. Zheng Yan didn't refuse. Although he looked fierce, he was actually quite easygoing. It's Kuranosuke who grilled meat. His grilled meat is one of a kind, and it is also His Highness's favorite food. Every time he goes out, His Highness will take him with him. As he introduced, Zheng Yan took Dong Shenyao to the bonfire. Just after he came to Zangjisuke, before Zheng Yan could speak, Dong Shenyao had already shot. Chapter 139 Missing Nin Strikes. Just after he came to Zangjisuke, before Zheng Yan could speak, Dong Shenyao had already shot. Huh. Dong Shenyao punched the head of Kuranosuke extremely fast. Because Dong Shenyao's shot was too sudden, Zheng Yan didn't react at all. Bang! Dong Shenyao's punch directly hit Kuranosuke's head, and the huge force knocked Kuranosuke to the ground. Bastard! What are you doing? Zheng Yan was furious when he saw that Dong Shenyao suddenly attacked his subordinates, but he was still a little sensible and did not attack Dong Shenyao. But at this time Dong Shenyao did not speak, but stared at Kuranosuke who was lying on the ground. Bang! There was a sudden explosion, followed by a puff of white smoke from Zangjisuke's body, which made Zheng Yan stunned. At this moment, Wano Castle, who was resting under the tree before, also shot. I saw Wano City directly kicked a guard who was sorting dry wood to the ground, and then white smoke also came out of the guard. Soon the white smoke dissipated, and Zheng Yan found that the original Kuranosuke was gone, replaced by a stranger. What's going on? Zheng Yan was stunned. At this time, the others were also shocked. This is the transformation technique. This person turned into Kuranosuke and mixed in. At this time, Dong Shenyao's expression was very serious, because this incident meant that someone was following them, which is not a good thing. Who the hell are these people? Zheng Yan asked. Dong Shenyao did not answer directly, but first crouched down and turned the ninja on the ground over. At this time, the ninja had been knocked unconscious by Dong Shenyao. This is missing Nin from Iwagakure village, Ta Shenyao said while looking at the ninja guarding his forehead. I saw a piece of Iwagakure village's forehead guard on the head of this ninja, but there is a scratch on the forehead, which represents the meaning of missing Nin. Zheng Yan, what happened? Hasegawa Kazuhiko was also disturbed at this time, and got off the carriage. His Royal Highness, a ninja came in just now, but luckily it was discovered by the ninjas of Konoha. Zheng Yan explained quickly. Yes. Hearing that there was an enemy, Kazuhiko was not afraid, but walked over. Is it the enemy you discovered? Kazuhiko looked at Dong Shenyao and asked. Thank you, Kazuhiko said gratefully. It's nothing, this is my mission, you should protect His Highness. Dong Shenyao said expressionlessly. The mere son of a fire country daimyo is not enough to make Dong Shenyao fear. Your Highness, it's dangerous outside, you'd better go back to the carriage to rest. Zheng Yan advised. No, I believe that with these powerful Konoha ninjas around, I will be fine. Kazuhiko shook his head. Seeing Kazuhiko believe in himself and others so much, Dong Shenyao was also a little happy, but he was happy, and he still had something to say. Thank you for your trust, but please let your Highness rest in the carriage, which can also lighten our burden. Dong Shenyao's words were very rude, causing Zheng Yan to stare at Dong Shenyao directly. However, Kazuhiko himself was not angry, but smiled instead. You're right, since that's the case, I'll go back first. After that, Kazuhiko walked back under the escort of Zheng Yan. Seeing this, Ta Shenyao walked to Wano Castle with Iwagakure missing Nin, who was knocked unconscious by him. Yao is really thanks to you this time. If you didn't find out that these people used transformation technique to get in, I'm afraid we would be in danger. Wano City said with lingering fears. He couldn't believe that once the two ninjas were given a chance to contact Kazuhiko, their mission would be a failure. This is what I should do, but Wano-senpai, what should I do with these two ninjas? Let's interrogate first and see if we can get useful information. Wano City said solemnly. Then leave the interrogation to me, I'm good at this. Dong Shenyao volunteered. I didn't expect you to be good at this, Yao, that's just right. Wano City was overjoyed, because their team is really not good at this. After receiving Wano Castle's answer, Ta Shenyao was not polite, and took the two comatose missing Nin aside. If it was before, Dong Shenyao's method of interrogation was to use Sharingan to hypnotize the other party, and then entice and lure him to tell the secret. But I don't need it now, because Dong Shenyao has obtained the secret technique of the Yamanaka family. For spying on memory, this is what the Yamanaka family is best at, and thus makes the Yamanaka family the leader of the Konoha Intelligence Department. Ninja, the art of inspiration. After using the secret technique of the Yamanaka family, Ta Shenyao's spiritual power directly entered Iwagakure missing Nin's mind, and then began to read the other party's memory. Because Dong Shenyao just chose to check the other party's recent memory, he quickly got the information he wanted. It turned out to be so. After getting the information, Dong Shenyao put away his ninjutsu, and then he killed the two Chunin unceremoniously. In any case, both of them were worth 120 god building points. Of course, Dong Shenyao would not be polite. How's it going? Seeing Dong Shenyao's return, several people from Wano City immediately surrounded him. I have already received information, this time a total of 9 missing Nin came. These missing nin came from various villages. They specially traveled in various countries to get money by doing tasks. This time their task is to kill Hasegawa Kazuhiko. As for the behind-the-scenes messenger. Having said this, Dong Shenyao paused. What's wrong with Yao? Is there any problem? Or did the instigators behind the scenes not find out? Wano City asked. The identity of the behind-the-scenes messenger is somewhat sensitive. Dong Shenyao showed a look of embarrassment on his face. In this case, you don't need to say it, but you can tell His Highness Kazuhiko the information. Wano City was very wise and did not continue to ask. We'll talk about this later, but I just found out that the 2 missing nins from Iwagakure village came in to get medicine this time, and the other missing nins will attack in the middle of the night. Dong Shenyao's expression was serious. Said. It's like this, it seems that we have to take precautions as soon as possible. Wano City also knew that the matter was urgent. Soon Wano Castle negotiated with Zheng Yan, and told the information that the enemy would attack in the middle of the night. After everyone made arrangements, they waited for the arrival of the enemy. In the blink of an eye, it was already late at night. At this time, there was silence in the woods, and there was no movement except for the occasional sound of insects. The bonfire was burning quietly, and most of the people had already rested, at this moment. Whoosh whoosh. Several dark shadows shuttled through the woods, rushing towards the camp. Chapter 140 Sneak Attack. In the middle of the night, several figures approached the camp. Although Dong Shenyao and the others set up a lot of traps around the camp before, most of these traps are not lethal and only serve as an early warning, so these people who sneaked over didn't take long to get rid of the traps. Come on. Dong Shenyao's heart moved, although he closed his eyes now, but relying on Byakugan to still see everything around him. It's still a lot worse. At this time, Dong Shenyao was a little disappointed. Although he now has Byakugan's extremely strong reconnaissance ability, Ta Shenyao has not given up on developing his own unique reconnaissance ability. Through the ability of soil and soil fruit, Dong Shenyao has developed a perception ability, that is, earth shaking. Instead of manipulating the ground to vibrate, it senses the vibration of the ground. Anything that walks on the ground causes the ground to vibrate, no matter how careful you are, unless it's flying. However, this kind of earth shaking is usually very slight, and ordinary people can't feel it at all, but this is difficult for Dong Shenyao, who has the soil fruit. Therefore, according to this feature, Dong Shenyao developed the skill of earthquake, which determines the position of the enemy by sensing the vibration of the earth 000. However, this ability, Dong Shenyao, has just been developed, and it is still very weak. At most, it can only detect the ground shaking within 10 meters around him. The range of only 10 meters is very tasteless for the current Dong Shenyao. However, Dong Shenyao is very optimistic about the prospect of this skill. After all, once the perception range is expanded, then this skill will surpass Byakugan's detection ability. Even after reaching a certain level, Dong Shenyao can perceive every inch of the entire planet. All will be under his watch. But now, Dong Shenyao is still 108,000 miles away from sensing the entire planet. Through Byakugan, Dong Shenyao gave up his thoughts and prepared for the battle. Soon the group broke through the trap and came out of the camp. Go! This group of people was not polite, and they shot directly when they came outside the camp. Whoosh whoosh. A large piece of kunai and shuriken shot out, covering the camp like raindrops. In an instant, more than 30 people resting in the camp were all pierced by shuriken and kunaidong. Not good. Not only were these attackers not happy, but they were vigilant, because they found that there was no blood flowing from the people who had been pierced by kunai and shuriken, but some weeds flew out. Fucked, that's a scarecrow. And just when these people found out that something was wrong, Dong Shenyao and others who had been in ambush for a long time took action. Doden, Earth Style, Dusty. Kaden, Fire Style, Dragon Fire Bullet. The smoke and dust filled the air, instantly covering the attacker's sight, and the next moment, endless flames enveloped these people. Boom. The flames exploded in the woods, and the trees within 100 meters were destroyed. However, the attack did not end. Dozens of kunai were shot and immediately submerged into the place of the explosion. At the same time, the end of these kunai was bound with a detonating charm. Boom! It didn't take long for a burst of explosions to sound one after another. The flames shot into the sky, and many beasts were alarmed by the explosion and hurriedly fled. Although the sneak attack was successful, Wano Castle and the others did not relax their vigilance. As ninjas with rich combat experience, they knew that as long as they did not really confirm that the enemy was dead, they could not relax. In particular, Dong Shenyao stared at the place of the explosion with sharp eyes. With Byakugan around, not even the smoke could block his view. Escaped, Shenglongba. Seeing that a ninja ran away, Ta Shenyao activated his skills again. Boom! A soil dragon soared into the sky, and then bombarded an open space. Just when the few people in Wano City didn't know why Dong Shenyao did this, a thunder light suddenly lit up from the open space. I saw a lightning ball shot out and bombarded the Tulong directly. Lektu, even if this earth dragon was condensed by Dong Shenyao using earth and earth fruit, and the power of this thunder ball is amazing, so it was smashed with just one blow of earth dragon, but Wano City and others also understood at this time the practice of Dong Shenyao. I saw a figure appear in the empty space that was originally empty. It's stealth. It seems that Yao's detection ability is very strong. Wano City thought to himself. Damn it. The ninja who was forced out was angry, but he knew that this was not the time to be angry. The enemy was very bad for him in the dark, and he had to hide now. Whoosh! An instant, the Raiden Thunder-style ninja had disappeared into the woods. The smoke gradually dissipated, and a dungeon and a water dungeon appeared in the place where the explosion had occurred before. Obviously, this was the enemy's defense. Go! Wano City and others were not polite and rushed forward. Hoo. Damn it, it looks like Kojira and the others failed, and they leaked the plan, damn it. The previous ninja who used Raiden Thunder-style stopped after hiding in the woods, gasping for breath. Just now, in order to resist the attack, he consumed a lot of energy, and even got injured. Of course, he must rest well now. Whoosh! This Raiden Thunder-style ninja was just about to rest when he suddenly noticed a vicious wind coming from behind his head, so he hurriedly dodged. It's a pity. Seeing that his sneak attack was dodged, a hint of disappointment flashed across Dongshin's dazzling eyes. Damn! Raiden Thunder-style ninja who had attacked him were burning with fire, because although he was hiding quickly, he was still injured, and a large hole was drawn on his back. Boy, Rabel, must kill you today. Saying that, the Raiden Thunder-style ninja drew his weapon from behind and headed straight for Dong Shenyao. Dong Shenyao did not show weakness, and waved his shadow-chopping saber to meet him. Dang. A burst of gold and iron symphony sounded, and the two were fighting in one place. What a lot of strength. Dong Shenyao was amazed in his heart, and at the same time, during the battle, Dong Shenyao found that the opponent was wearing the Kumogakure village's forehead, but there was a scratch on it. It turned out to be missing Nin from Kumogakure village. No wonder the physique is so good. Although Dong Shenyao has never dealt with people from Kumogakure village, he knows that Kumogakure village is best at taijutsu, especially with a secret technique that combines Raiden Thunder-style ninjutsu with taijutsu. Even more powerful. Bang! Suddenly, Liebuer slashed directly on Dong Shenyao's arm, but he did not hurt Dong Shenyao. At this time, Label only felt that his knife was richly slashed on steel, and his arm was numb. I saw that Dong Shenyao's arm has turned into a rock at this time, which is the ability of elementalization. Good chance. Dong Shenyao took the opportunity to stab Rabel with a knife.